Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei got harem with supernatural older girls part 1. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content, and subscribe my channel and like this video. If you like to hear adult version of this and other stories, I'll give you link of my Patreon. Go support and follow the DanzyDanz for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story. Link in the description. Let's start this video. Issei Hayato was and is, to put it simply, an ordinary young male of ordinary origin. His father worked as a white-collared worker, and his mother was a stay-at-home housewife. Although people might claim otherwise, since not many ordinary young males of ordinary origin could be in the same position as he was now. 3 years ago he graduated from his high school with an average grade. He had always had a fascination of surviving on his own in this vast great world, supported by his always supportive parents, his curiosity of the world, and buoyed by his burning desires to see boobs from other places. At the ripe age of 18, Issei moved away from his hometown. He moved from the peaceful city of Kuo, his place of birth, a home where he had lived for 18 years. It was difficult, of course. He never expected it to be easy. A fledgling high school graduate who played adult games daily and most of the time just messed about in his school days, backed only by internets and other adults, would have little knowledge of how the outside truly worked. The illogical job requirements and his age got him rejected here and there. Of course, his parents still sent him some monthly allowances, although he never used them as long as he still had his own money, and keeps them as emergency funds. He rented a small standard apartment, burned through paychecks even as he was doing multiple part-time jobs to make sure he could live, exhausted himself days to night to a point his body adapted to his rough schedule. Did that ever stop him? No, it dimmed his spirit at times, but never once did he give up. Always brought himself back up, because if not him, then who would? He was out here to prove himself, and by his own decision. If he couldn't take care of himself, how else would he take care of his girls when he attained his harem? Or a single girl? Issei was blessed as a healthy boy. His parents rarely ever got sick. The only time he had to spend the day off school was when he was an elementary student, and it wasn't because of his sickness, but because his mother was ill and his father had an important meeting to stay home and care for her. Even then, his mother got better the very next day, yet eventually, the inevitable happened. A day came where his body could no longer take the punishment. In the midwinter evening, he collapsed on his way to his small apartment, but it was on that snowy day when he met her, the golden priestess. He didn't remember the details, because who could when everything was spinning? When he woke, she told him she found him lying on top of the snow, blanketed by the same white sheet at the bottom of the stairs leading to a shrine, their home. It was snowing like no other. He could have died that day, and maybe he would have if not for her. But Issei didn't like mulling over that kind of scary thing. He had never been the kind to dwell on the past and kill his own spirit. Still, it didn't mean he didn't curse his torrid luck. Being bedridden for hours was awfully boring, and him being the adventurer at heart, Issei refused to stay at one place for more than 1 hour without doing anything, except when he had a date with rosy palms. As long as his feet still could carry him, he wanted to move around, and thus he set forth on a little venture around the shrine. It wasn't a grand shrine by any means. It was old and traditionally wooden. The floors made creaking noises each time he took a step, and although it was cleaner than he thought, it could use some repairs. He doubted many people came by often since there were many other shrines that were more famous, but maybe he shouldn't have snooped around. It was most likely that he shouldn't, because he saw what he was not meant to see. No, he didn't stumble into her while she was changing. He did stumble into her, but not when she was changing. In fact, she was doing an everyday job of maintaining the shrine, cleaning the dust off furniture as she hummed a light melody. It wouldn't be that big of a deal if she didn't have 9 fluffy bushy tails swishing around merrily, or the pointy set of orange ears sitting on top of her long golden hair. This is a dream, he had said to himself. He even pinched his cheek, and shrieked when he pinched himself too hard. His little shriek caused their eyes to meet, and Issei felt a pang of guilt when he saw the distress in her eyes and heard her very silent, "Oh no." But he also felt the warm encasing feeling and a rise of confusion the moment he saw her daughter come running in from the other side of the room. Like mother like daughter, he supposed. The little girl was a spitting image of her. She had the same hair, same fur ears, same bushy tail, except hers was just a single bushy tail. Their scream of panic was the last voice he heard when he fainted. He woke up in the same bed. Same traditional futon. But instead of her, someone else was standing in the small room. Someone tall and foreign. Someone with a purple wine suit and dark hair, whose bangs were contrasting blonde. Someone with 6 pairs of night black wings darker than a raven's. Someone who looked like they would spend hours in a nightclub. What one insane dream I'm having, Issei muttered. He no longer felt the crippling heat of his cold, and his voice was no longer husky. His vision wasn't blurry too, and he could see the tall man was looking at him with a grin. About time you wake up, boy. Any longer and I would have left for another day. His voice was deep, but casually carefree. I'm not dreaming, am I? Unfortunately, you aren't, the man said cryptically as he moved closer, towering against him. At this point, Issei had fully given up on his fate to whoever was above. Get up, boy, you're no longer sick. And how much longer are you going to stay here and sleep? Issei gulped. His tone was friendly, but his black wings suggested otherwise. He wasn't judgmental. He was often judged by others, but he was never the one to judge. However, he had never seen a cosplay this well done, and he could only be in denial for so long. Sluggishly, he rose up to his feet, and the man really was tall. A complete head taller than him. Before he could speak, Issei raised his finger. A question, and be honest with me, am I going to die? The man seemed amused with his question. Hell, we're all gonna die one day. You, me. But not today, quite the snarker. Awesome. Issei loved sarcastic people. Okay, then am I going to get hurt? As in today? Relax, kiddo. The man chuckled, offering a smile. We're not going to hurt ya. At worst, we'll have to erase your memory. Like Men in Black? Exactly. He smirked, sort of. But that's only if you want to. Issei thought for a moment to register what he meant, or if he heard wrong. Who would want their memory cleansed? Someone who had horrible memories, maybe, or dark troubled pasts like those edgy MCs. But Issei didn't have any such horrible memories or past. Well? What's it gonna be? Want your memory wiped away? It won't be everything. Only for the part where you saw her and me. So more or less, you'll only forget what happened today. Issei recalled what the winged guy meant instantly. How could he ever forget their tales? Obviously, he didn't want to. He had discovered something he had never seen before. Like hell, he wanted to forget his discovery. That's like throwing away his research if he's a scientist. Or for a more relatable term, deleting his save file. It's my own decision, right? Yup. It's fine if I keep my memory as it is? Yup. And I don't have to pay or do anything if I refuse? At that, the man thought for a while, humming. Well, you don't have to worry about money, if that's what you're worried about. Issei sensed a but coming soon, and it did. But there is a catch if you do. Issei didn't like the way he's smiling now. You remember her, the woman who saved you? He nodded slowly, unsure where this was heading. You remember how many tails she has? 9. And how many tails her daughter has? 1? Seriously, where was he taking him with all these questions? Any idea who they are? She's Yasaka, and the little girl is Kuna. They live here. Wrong. Well, you're right, partly right. But that's not what I meant when I asked you. He smiled smugly. At least someone was enjoying this. The man then walked around the room methodically. You see, boy, there are various beings in this world. Most humans, like you, he nudged his goatee chin at him, think they're alone. But you can probably tell how wrong they are by now if you have half a brain. He stopped walking, and looked at him dead in the eyes. There are various other races, and I'm not talking about ethnicity. His eyes held him to make sure he's listening, and Issei was. What else was there to do but listen? I myself, for one, am a fallen angel. People will probably wonder how far you fall if you tell them that. Crap, that was accidental. And Issei immediately shut himself up, but the guy cracked into a burst of laughter. Ha! You've got humor in you. It's fine, just relax. I like snappy brats. They're annoying but not boring, Issei breathed in relief. But still, you better watch your tongues around other people like me. I like jokes, they're fun. Wits too. But others? Not so much. He said seriously, and Issei took it seriously. He flinched when he extended a hand, though. Anyway, the name's Azazel. Nice to meet you, boy. Issei grabbed it, and shook firmly like a man. Issei. Hiya to Issei. Nice to meet you too, Azazel-san? Bah, you Japanese and your politeness. Just Azazel's fine. Let's keep it casual between us. Retracting his hand, Azazel nodded several times, as if he was mentally sizing him up. Ah, where did we leave off? Oh, right. Do you believe in supernatural? Folklores and whatnots? Honesty is the best policy. His father taught him that. No. Not really, no. I don't know, maybe? Ha, you're confused. Fair enough. Azazel cackled. As you can see, I'm one of them. Fallen angels are one of what your people refer to as supernatural, a convenient simplified term to include any sentient beings that aren't humans. He explained, and the nice lady who took care of you? She's a kitsune, and so is her daughter. Their ethnicity, however, is a Kyubi. Just like you being a Japanese human. Catch my drift? Issei was far from the best thinker, but he was no idiot, most of the time. The governments have known we exist for quite a while now, the government. Of course. Who else would it be to hide the truth from the public? And both the sides have been working on living together. Lucky you, we're just about to announce the news tomorrow. If not, well, I'd have to do what I have to do. Issei had the sense to pale at that. Azazel seemed friendly, but he could be intimidating. Anyway, don't worry about that stuff. Let's just say you're one of the lucky few. He said, the people here, Mrs. Yasaka and the lively little brat, they happen to be under my watch. On legal terms, I'm their overseer. You know, someone who looks after someone, but not like a babysitter. More like their agent, as you can say. The young boy nodded again. He just accepted whatever he told him as fact at this point. He'd believe him even if he told him the sky was actually green, but the government did some science stuff to make it blue because green was ugly. Good. Azazel smiled, glad that the boy wasn't thick-headed. You see, once the announcement is made, the chiefs are arranging a plan to smoothen the progress. Because let's be real. To you, we're freaks of nature, aren't we? Issei furrowed his eyebrows. What? Why? I think that's pretty cool if anything. You do? Azazel's smirk grew into a genuine smile. Well, that makes it easier then. Just to make sure, you're 20-something, eh? 21. 22 next year. Why, good. You're young but old enough. Azazel nodded. I'll just get straight to the point. Would you mind being these families' caretaker? And that means they'll live with you, not the other way around. Issei kept his head cool. The idea was exciting, and inside, he was jumping like a rabbit on caffeine. That'll be nice, but I'm just a guy living in a small apartment. Oh yeah, we know that already. Of course. Issei wouldn't be surprised if they knew where he stored his stash either. And we know where you hide your goods too. God damn it, gotta say you have some fine taste. Maybe I should introduce you to my colleague if things go well. She's quite chipper young as you, nice rack, a bit feisty though. His eyes lit up in flames. Please do, ha. Easy there, kiddo. I like your interests though. Azazel snickered. Anyway, wow, how many times have I said anyway? Well, anyway, you don't have to worry about living expenses. The Govies will cover any expenses, as long as you follow the rules. And then, with a snap of his finger, a huge bundle of papers appeared out of nowhere, floating to his hands. Issei gingerly placed his hands beneath it, and the moment Azazel let it drop, Issei nearly dropped as well. That was as heavy as he thought. You humans sure love them rules. Azazel commented dryly. I won't bother reading all of them, and you shouldn't either. They're just formalities. Treat them nicely and you'll be fine. Issei smiled. He would rather not read this thick of an encyclopedia if possible. I'd been loitering around for too long. Here's my business card. Call me if you agree with everything on it, or if you don't. Give my regards to the young missus. Ciao. And with a two-finger salute, the fallen angel's 12 black wings shrouded his body, before a black explosion of shadows covered the whole room. Afterwards, only a single feather was left, floating slowly in the air. Azazel had completely disappeared, and Issei had to admit it. That was wicked sick. Damn, he muttered, staring at the lone feather as it swayed to the wooden panel. That just happened. It was a weird turn of events, and he liked weird turns of events when they're beneficial for him. He was all giddy at the moment, smiling like a fool. A dream came true. Not because he wouldn't have to worry about money, but because more races mean more girls, and more girls mean more boobs. Simple as that. For a good 5 seconds, issei pranced around the small quaint room, until a gentle white hand slid the traditional door open to the side, revealing the lovely priestess and her timid daughter, looking at the dancing man with golden eyes filled with uncertainty. Issei gawked, and he stopped, embarrassed beyond words as he rubbed his neck. That was a human's victory dance. Yeah, like that would work. As he heard her soft giggle, he figured it did work, only not the way he intended it to. Are you all right? She asked in a soft tune. Issei paused. I think so. Am I? She looked as troubled as him, but then he realized why the moment her characteristics popped out. 9 lustrous golden tails with white tips unfurled slowly behind her sensuous figure, as did her ears that were like a twin pair of orange wick of a candle. Her daughter did the same, though with much more hesitation than her mother. Their tails. I want to touch them, was the only thing Issei could think of despite his deadpan stare. The small girl brought her tail forward, and hugged onto it. He felt his manliness was waning, and fast. It was then Yasaka's fox ears drooped as she avoided his eyes. It was also then Issei's heart was bound to burst at any moment. He closed his eyes, and took a deep, deep breath. Stay strong. Keep calm. You got this. Probably. I understand we may look odd to you, but… wait, what? There goes his calm. And no, of course not. I think you're very beautiful, and your tails are very beautiful and cute. And oh gods, what have I said? I meant it though. For whatever reason Issei couldn't tell, a very hot blush splashed on their snowy face, followed with a bashful smile. Since then, the rest was history. Break. Tan. Itin. Wake up. It was 7 in a cold December morning when Hayato Issei was cruelly snatched from his oddly realistic dream, and dragged back to the cruel reality by a brutal pounce onto his stomach. Oof! Groaning in pain, the now fully woken up young lad was greeted by a pair of lively golden eyes, staring at him up close. The chestnut tip of her orange tail swishing behind her small face and her flock of golden hair. She paid no regard to his personal space whatsoever, and in no way being trampled on first thing in the morning was his ideal method of being woken up, but goddamn it was her smile adorable. Good morning! With a sigh, and a voice sown with sleepiness, Issei returned the greeting with an equally sleepy smile. Morning, Kunu. Satisfied with her success, the juvenile vixen tittered as she laid the side of her head to his chest, one bushy tail swaying here and there whereas her pointy furry ears flicked once in a while, reacting to the slightest of sounds. Issei gulped. Not 5 days since he had been sharing the same roof with her, here in this luxurious house that he thought was just enough for 3 people to live in. The government was quite the stingy pricks, he bet. It wasn't the first time she did this exact same thing, but he couldn't help but feel his blood sugar had passed its recommended level. However, as exceptionally adorable as she was, Issei was not one without priorities. Come on, couldn't get off me, he yawned, patting her messy bed hair that hadn't been tied to the usual perky ponytail. I have to get ready. Her fox ears drooped in the same way when he arrived home 30 minutes late. But it's snowing outside. Yet another tug at his heartstrings so early in the morning. But such was the hitch of his duty as the sole earner of this small household. It's because it's snowing outside I have to get ready. Kuna didn't budge. Well, she did budge when nuzzling his chest over the blanket, but that wasn't the budge he was looking for. Sensing his stare, Kuna tipped her head up. But it's cold, what if Kuna gets cold? Instead, he felt it was him who budged. Be tough, Issei. Be tough. He steeled himself. At times like these, he must be stern. Kunu, I'm no genius, but I know foxes can handle cold better than. The kitsune could tell by his tone she was about to get scolded. Hence she activated her foolproof defense mechanism, the so-called puppy eyes, or in her case, the vixen eyes. But Nighton isn't a fox. What if Nighton gets cold? And it should be noted that up close, the effect was twice as devastating. Coupled with her petulant pouty mouth, there was little he could do. Kunu dear, at the light-hearted soprano, the young crafty kitsune's eyes lit up in terror as her vulpine features stiffened, muttering a quiet "Oh, Issei Dunno has other issues to attend to. Spoiling you so early in the morning isn't one of them." Kunu whined in the whiniest way possible. "But Mum, good morning Yasaka-san, good morning Issei Dunno. Breakfast is ready." The QB gave him a sweet smile that melted away the coldness of winter's first light. The sweetness of the smile was short-lived though, as she turned at her daughter, and said, "And you, young lady, you're no longer a child anymore. You should try to be as. And then, the mother and daughter held a little argument right there in his room. The mother stood underneath the doorframe with an apron hugging her voluptuous body, and the daughter still lying on his chest like nobody's business. It was almost like he wasn't there. Still drowsy, Issei plopped his head back to the pillow. Might as well steal some snores. I just want to. Realizing his intent, Kuna gasped, and jumped on his chest, knocking the wind off him and also scaring her mother. Nightin! Don't go back to sleep. Okay. I'm up, Kunu. Yasaka raised her tone in worry. Issei Dano, are you alright? It's fine, I'm okay. I needed that anyway. He laughed with a sheepish smile. It did hurt. Maybe it wouldn't hurt as bad if it's Yasaka who bounced on him. No. No. Impurity. No. Go away. Realizing she might have overdone it, Kuna looked devastated. Naiden, are you okay? Eek! Flinging himself off the bed, and effectively throwing Kunu off the bed as well, Issei was now fully awake. For real this time? No more lazing around. He was no longer a young man living on his own, but a full-fledged capable young man with responsibilities and a tiny yet lively family to take care. So onward to the bathroom he went, with Kuna giddily trotting behind him, mimicking his walk. No, young lady. You shouldn't trouble Issei Dano anymore. You're going to help mommy. But mum. No. This is violence. Kunu will start a riot. Kunu will start the biggest fire the North has ever seen. Wah! Nightin! Save me! As a thrashing Kunu was heaved into the air by Yasaka, Issei could finally brush his teeth with a semblance of peace. His days as a caretaker had only just begun. Having sported his faithful plain red jumper to fend off the icy bites of the wintry morning, Hayato Issei exited his bedroom with an invigorated self. How was he invigorated so early in the morning? No, it's not because Christmas was a month away. Normally, he wouldn't be bothering with Christmas as that was the day all single guys like him dreaded the most next to Valentine's Day. But this time, he was looking forward for it. Still, that wasn't the case this time. His mother was a morning person, and Issei had successfully inherited her trait. But even then, that was not it, because he could have home-cooked breakfast. And no ordinary breakfast either, mind you. A homemade breakfast lovingly made by a lovely young maiden. Maybe lovingly was a stretch, but imaginations were what colored his life. The house the government gave to them wasn't big or extravagant in any way. Not much different than the standard reasonably priced modern-day Japanese house, and it blended in nicely with the neighboring houses. Nearly similar to his parents except with 2 master bedrooms and spacious enough to house a family of 3 and 4 at most, but any more and it would be cramped. Regardless, it still was a huge upgrade for someone who lived in a tiny living space till about a week ago. Back in that apartment, he could just roll over the floor to get to the other side of his home. He didn't miss anything now, but Issei was certain he'd come to miss the days where he could lie down and pretend he was a crawling slug without anybody noticing. Hopefully the government wasn't watching him. Heading downstairs with Yasaka's breakfast in mind, he was greeted by a husky, deep voice of a man. That couldn't be either of the Kitsons. Else he'd slam his head to a wall. Ah, there he is. Morning, boy. Thankfully it wasn't. Seated at the dining table with the 2 Kitsons was their overseer, merrily enjoying the dishes Yasaka made. Azazel? Issei started with a frown, but headed over nonetheless. His hungriness wouldn't go away without eating. What are you doing here? He wanted to resume his streak of spending pleasant mornings with a beautiful woman and cheery little girl. He didn't want to add a sarcastic asshole to the mix. Thank you very much. Oh, come on, don't be like that. This visit is work-related, okay? Work-related. Azazel chortled, stuffing more food to his gobbler. My. These dishes, they're top-notch. You should consider opening up a small eatery, Mrs. Yasaka. I'm afraid, I'm not that comfortable with humans other than Issei Dano. Of course. Of course. Azazel nodded understandingly. It took a keen pair of eyes and sharp ears to hear his self-beating for raising that kind of question. And at the moment, Issei was busy watching Kuna's tail swaying side to side merrily as she chowed down the grilled fish. The young boy only snapped out of its hypnotizing effect once he realized he was spacing out, and looked at the man sitting next to him. What is it? Seriously, I'm not in any trouble, am I? I swear I've been good. Hearing their caretaker's skepticism, both the girls looked at the fallen angel with obvious worry in their eyes. To their relief, Azazel laughed gaily. Ha! No, no. Yeesh, don't make accusations like that. You're making me look like the bad guy here. I am just here to make sure everything is a-okay. Basic overseer stuff. The boy troubled you much, ladies? Far from it. Yasaka quickly objected. Issei Dano is earnest and gentle. Kuna likes him as well. The juvenile vixen nodded cheerfully, seconding the opinion. I can't think of a better caretaker than him. What she shade. Kunu, please don't talk while you're eating. Yasaka's genuine smile was more than enough reward, but Kunu's jubilant cheer was the icing on the cake that was not less appreciated. Added with Yasaka's heavenly cooking, Issei felt high above the skies. Look at him. All smug. Azazel scoffed, then took a sip of his black coffee. Still, strange they're this fond of you already. Good to know I did an amazing job choosing the boy, eh? As far as Issei was concerned, he signed up for this by his own will, but he let it off. He was being praised, after all, even though Azazel was clearly fishing compliments for himself. The girls nodded regardless. Giving a firm pat on his back, he then stood up from his seat. Welp, that's done and done. Many thanks for the breakfast. See you, Miss Yasaka, and you too, Lil Miss. Bye, Uncle Z. The young vixen gleamed, fist-bumping Azazel's fist over the table and the food servings. Yasaka spared the carefree fallen angel a quaint smile, but Issei paused at all these nonchalant interactions. Wait, hold on, you're leaving already? Yeah. Obviously. Azazel looked equally puzzled as him. What, do you want a fist bump too? That's not, well, why not? And thus their knuckles bumped. But that's it? Don't tell me you came here just for breakfast. Free breakfast, and coffee. The man added. And yes, that's that. What else do you want from me? I'm a busy man, got other stuff to do. My people need me. I can't dilly-dally around so chow. Issei was at loss of words, and with a gaping mouth, he could only point at the carefree fallen angel leaving through the front door. By both of the girls' blasé reactions, he concluded that's simply how Azazel did his things. Then he popped out again at the door. Oh, just a little reminder, be careful if you meet with other supernatural in the open. Not every single one of us is civilized like me or as kind as Yasaka, and those who are homeless probably haven't heard of the news either. Got it? Good. Ciao, and there he goes again, Issei thought aloud. I thought he only looks after you guys, or girls. Yasaka settled down her chopsticks, waiting for her caretaker and daughter to finish their breakfast. Azazel-sama has other supernaturals that are under his care. I was not told much, but I think we can say he looks after a lot. How good to know he's doing his job, Issei muttered. Yasaka-san, how long have you known him? It's been quite a while. Several years or so. I'd say she could barely walk on her 2 feet that time. A fuzzy warm feeling filled his chest as Yasaka stroked her daughter's head. Kunu completely took after her mother, except Yasaka had white tips on the tip of her orange ears and 9 tails. Fufu, how quickly time passes. Now that he noted her distinguishing animalistic traits, Issei dared to ask, I just noticed, but do those white tips have any meaning? The ones on the end of your ears and tails, I mean. He began to worry at seeing her sheepish smile as she slightly tilted her head to one side. They do, and well, I suppose in human terms, these represent white hair, she said sourly. That morning, he learned humans weren't the only ones to fret about becoming old. Ah, have they become too noticeable now? I suppose I'm no longer young, fufufu. Well, Yasaka-san seems youthful to me. Issei laughed briefly, carrying on with his meal, unaware of the light tint of pink splaying over the mother's pearly cheeks. I guess for meals like these, I'd probably do the same if I was him. Yasaka smiled courteously at his indirect compliment. You're too kind, Issei Dano. I mean it though. And can you not call me with Dano? Does it trouble you? If so, I apologize. Again with her droopy ears and guilty look. And no. I mean, it does, but you don't have to apologize. I know you're just being polite, Yasaka-san. Issei said hurriedly. From all the questionable games he played and all the unbelievably dense protagonists that could give a black hole a run for its money, he had learned many lessons the school never taught him, and one of them was to clear misunderstandings before it can really hurt someone. I just don't feel that's right. I'm no noble. Dano is a bit too regal sounding like? Yeah, Mom. Why not just call night and like Kuna does? The child was ignored. Oh. Yasaka smiled, relieved. Then should I refer to you as Issei-sama instead? His expression was flat, unaffected. But deep down, he was reserving her voice in his memory. When else will he hear his name spoken politely and with an honorific as high as that? And by a beautiful woman? As a fact, Dano is considered less respectful than Sama nowadays. At least that's the way he saw it. Nonetheless, he was not that obsessed with honorifics. He liked casualness as long as formality was unneeded. Maybe just issei is fine, that's what my friends call me with. Issei? What's this? His heart beat faster than he expected. Ah, that's right. This was the first time a girl called him with that nickname, and not perv or leech. Forget walking in while a girl was changing. This was enough for him to visit his late grandparents. Issei Nighton couldn't repeat it, as if having a taste. She decided it was too long of a name. Couldn't stick with Nighton. Issei. Then Yasaka smiled, speaking his name in barely a whisper as she fondly watched the young man finish his meal, looking a tad bit embarrassed, but happy at the same time. He just became smarter to not wear his feelings on his sleeves. Issei Dano. I mean Issei dear, would you like another bowl? Containing his smile was harder than he thought, but he pushed through. No thanks, Yasaka-san, he said politely, pushing his chair off the table as he peered at the clock on the wall. Ah, I actually have to leave now, Yasaka nodded. Like her overseer, he had work to do. It's all right. Let me wash the dishes. Be careful, Issei dear, don't exhaust yourself. To be sent off daily with a smile and be called a dear, what more could he ask? Kunu, however, had no trouble expressing her disappointment. But Nighton hasn't played with Kunu yet. Kunu, what did I tell you about this? She slumped to the dining table, ears flopping down. Don't bother Nighton. We'll play when I get back home, okay? Issei assured with a bright smile, holding out his fist. That was enough to bring joy to the juvenile kitsune as she fist bumped him. The sight earned a light titter from the mother. Be a good girl until then. As he picked up his necessities, leaving afterwards, Yasaka directed her golden eyes at her daughter, whose ears flopped back down due to his absence. Well, Kunu, you heard what Issei Dano said. If you be a good girl, maybe he'll return earlier. Her eyes lit up. Really? She hummed. And do you know what a good girl does? Be good? Yasaka giggled. They helped their mother wash the dishes. Kunu dropped her smile and whined unenthusiastically. Break, being the only caretaker at his current town, and the first to ever exist worldwide, granted him the privilege of showboating. Once he was allowed to. There was no press conference. No announcement. It had been stated on an international scale that a caretaker should not expose the extra species they currently house to the outside world to ensure privacy. To many people, they were seen as celebrities. Understandable, because who would have thought they were living in the same world with these people without ever knowing? But to some, they were seen as exotic humans that happened to have animalistic attributes. In other words, freaks of nature. Issei didn't understand why they would label them as such, but what he knew was that some people are simply more judgmental than others. Something that could only be changed by time. It would be a slow process, but they'll get there. He's sure of it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be a caretaker right now, and the supernaturals will be kept as the government's secret. At least now humans knew they were not alone. They just didn't know about the supernaturals' whereabouts. So, to keep people from getting suspicious and snoop around, Issei couldn't just stay at home and had to work like an ordinary student. All that his workmates and neighbors needed to know was that he was a son staying at his relative's place to explore the world. Regardless of all of that, he wished he could work somewhere else other than this fast food restaurant. He didn't have anything against its famous brand, he just despised the fact that he was working at the same place with his high school's idol, the common enemy of all male students, his self-declared sworn nemesis, the rejoiced Prince of Ko, Yudo Kiba. To make matters worse, he shared the same shift and break with him. With brooding eyes, he stared at the blonde Bishi sitting across his seat with silent contempt. Eventually, an unsettled Kiba settled his notebook on the cheap metallic table. Is something wrong, Issei-san? Nothing. Just wondering why you of all people, he grumbled, ensuring his personal grudge was known. Kiba laughed sheepishly at that. Lying flat on his cheek, Issei continued, Hey. Why are you here? Excuse me? His blonde foreign coworker asked. Somehow, he stayed dashing even in a fast food uniform. Goddamn handsome people, Issei sighed. I mean, come on. You're smarter than average. And better looking than Averag. Why am I praising you? This must be the Bishounen effect. Again, goddamn Bishi. Arg, anyway, you get what I'm saying. Kiba blinked. Are you asking me why I work here? That, and why you don't take college? Ah, but I do, Issei-san. Kiba chuckled lightly. We're on winter break right now, but I take night classes and this place happens to offer part-times fitting my schedule. The pay is pretty nice too. Well, I can agree with you on that. KFC did have a higher pay than other rivals and more lenient with its workers. He'll have to thank Azazel later for getting him this job and stop calling me with San. Makes me feel old, he muttered. So, why did you move out? The Bishounen awkwardly rubbed his neck. My distant relatives happen to live here. Ko is a nice city, but I don't really want to stay at the same place forever. I came to Japan because I've always wanted to see more of this world. Whoa, seriously? Dude, that makes us two. Issei cheered. That's 5 respect points to him for sharing the same aspirations. His reaction made Kiba smile, and that made him kill his own excitement. Don't smile at me, you pretty bastard. Kiba dropped his smile, and quietly muttered a sorry. Issei paused. He'd be lying if he claimed he didn't feel guilty. Sure, Kiba was the enemy of all male students including him, but that didn't mean he hated the guy to his guts. Just his looks that could make any girl's eyes turn in an instant, like he's a walking chick magnet. I'm just joking, goddammit, Issei grouched. Guess your friends don't make fun of you, huh? Kiba lowered his eyes. Yeah, Issei paused. Now he's no psychologist or a mentalist, but he's pretty sure that was a forced smile. Are you telling me you have no friends? Kiba froze, keeping his faint smile. Not really. A handsome guy with nearly excellent grades, who was flocked with female students nearly anywhere he wandered around the school 90% all the time, the rumored unbeatable kendo master, didn't have a single soul to call his friend? The equation did not compute. His brain errored and caused Issei to freeze for a good 5 seconds. Issei-san? You're bullshitting me. Kiba flinched from surprise. What about the girls? They talked about you all the time like you're the only guy in the school. Kiba's eyes widened at that. They did? Issei's eyes narrowed at that. You didn't know? Well, I never heard them talking about me, rather. They rarely ever talk to me. Kiba laughed ironically. And the same thing with the guys. I wonder if I ever did them wrong? Issei was about to call him out for pretending, but the blonde Bishi looked absolutely clueless and genuinely troubled. Unless Kiba also had a knack for acting, because it was too realistic to be acting. You've got to be kidding me, 3 years and you don't have a single clue. Was it that obvious? Kiba asked nervously, and also hopefully as he looked at his brunette coworker, slightly tilting his chair forward. Do you know why? So not only ordinary-looking guys suffer the clueless syndrome, huh? Issei said out loud with a straight face. Kiba was expectedly dumbstruck. It's because of your face, man, your face. Kiba became even more dumbstruck, feeling his handsomeness by hand. And my face? Yes. Issei half-yelled. I'll be very clear with you. It's because you're a go-good, goddammit. Why do I end up praising you again? I'm sorry? Face and palm, Issei sighed deeply. See here, Kiba, the reason why you're never approached is because you're unapproachable. Unapproachable? Exactly. Issei half-yelled. Again. Because you're like in your own space. The talented, good-looking, surrounded by girls' space. Kiba was about to object, but Issei held up a finger. I know, they don't talk to you. But that's how it looks to us average-tier dudes. You're one step above us at everything. Albeit a little bit confused, Kiba listened wholeheartedly. Another reason is probably because you never start the talk. Issei continued, scratching his head. But that's probably because the dudes leave when you come. So, in conclusion, Issei grabbed his chin sagaciously, the guys were jealous of you so they avoided you. Least that's what I thought. Oh, but I don't mean to. Kiba appeared dejected. Issei didn't want to, he didn't even think the day would come, but he felt bad for the Prince of Ko. Then what about the girls? Dude, do I look like a girl to you? You hang around them a lot more than I do, how can I tell what's on their mind? Even if I do, I'm not telling you. Issei grumbled immaturely. Like I'll let you hog all the girls. Slumping on his arms to enjoy his break a little more, Issei took a peek at his former schoolmate's expression. Introspecting himself it seemed, and there's confusion sprinkled with guilt and mixed with plain sadness. And here he thought the guy didn't have any issues, damn him and his morality. Sighing loudly, Issei shuffled off the chair. Their break was about to end regardless. But you're not a high schooler anymore anyway. It's not like there's no students in your uni. And if I'm you, I'd start hooking up with all the girls. Myehehe whelp. Time to get back to work. I see, San? Issei stopped his exit. What? I told you to drop this, San. Sorry. Kiba looked genuinely sorry. And Issei was genuinely pissed. Could he never understand a friendly banter? Oh right. Friendless. Do you hate me? What? Why would I do that if I don't even know you? I just hate your face. Issei laughed, but stopped mid-laughter. That was a joke. Don't take that seriously. Why yes, so that makes us friends, right? Oh my GHD, he's awkward. I don't know. Are we? Kiba looked conflicted. Oh my GHD, he's dumber than he looks. Yes, man. We're friends. Pals. Friendos. Amigos. Latinos. We don't need to say you're my friend to be friends. Thank you, Issei-san. It was at that moment Kiba gave a smile so sincere that if Issei was a girl, he'd surely fall for him. But he wasn't a girl. No, do not give me that look. No. Not unless you're a girl. Issei loved round things, not rectangles. He liked burgers, not hot dogs. And getting that heartfelt of a thanks and smile from a bishi was too much for him, and again with the san. Just call me Issei or Issei. Actually no. That's reserved for girls. And his parents. And those close to him. Kiba's not close to him. Just call me Issei. Okay, Issei. He felt a tingly feeling on his hands and back as if ants crawling all over him. Goosebumps. Those were goosebumps, right. On second thought, let's go with Kun instead. Issei-kun. He stared at Kiba with skepticism. That'll do, now let's bounce. We'll get chewed out for sure. Issei didn't realize that, at that very moment, Kiba was looking at him in the way Yasaka did earlier that morning. Break. Are you sure you'll be alright, Issei-kun? Yes. Yes, I am 100% sure that I can get back home all fine. Dude, don't give me that I'm worried vibes. That's what you say to a girl. At least that's what he thought as much, basing from his manga reading experience. After a scraggy goodbye, he finally got rid of Kiba. The city he lived in was smaller compared to Kyoto, and separated into two parts. The suburbs and the city where he worked. He could use public transport to go any corners one ride, though there's no bus to bring him back to the suburbs unless he took a taxi. And taxis cost a lot, so no thank you. He had passed his driving license since last year, but Issei didn't see any point if he couldn't buy a vehicle with his own money. And now that he's in this so-called interspecies homestay program, it cut his living expenses significantly, thanks to the government's reimbursement. He didn't have to worry about rent bills, gas, water, electricity, or if his supply of instant noodles was dangerously low, or if he had saved enough for the newest eroge and all the likes. It was a bit weird, however. He felt like he was the homestay. Well, he supposed him and the kitsunes were staying at a government house. But who cares? Living under the same roof with a youthful young mother and her jubilant little daughter sounded perfectly fine with him. He always liked hot moms, or any hot girls, and he had always wanted to know what it's like to have a little sister. Granted, Kunu wasn't related to him by blood, but hey, she's close enough. Walking while smiling rather smugly, Issei was glad and proud he could take part in this new era, as little his part might be. He did a little good to this world, that's what mattered for him. Idly glancing up, he watched as the white powder fell like feathers. The winter sky was nice, beautiful, really. Gray like a dove's feather, blushing red by the falling sun as the two colors meshed into one. As pretty as it would be nice if he could get back to the house before nightfall. He was a fit young man, but it'd be troublesome if the snow plummeted him like last time, and he didn't want the burgers to get too cold. Otherwise Kunu would be deeply saddened and change into Miss Nags-a-lot. Eventually, the young fellow came up upon an alley, lodged between two small and lovely restaurants. But it was a dark alley. A dark alley where foreboding darkness reached out like tendrils of the abyss. Exactly the kind of alley Issei would rather not walk into, and pace walk pronto. He was no coward, but he was no valiant hero either. Better be safe than sorry. That said, sometimes he let his curiosity get the best of him, because it was at that very moment Issei saw something move in the dark, along with the crisp sounds of shuffling plastic bags. It might be just some rats, and yeah, maybe it was just a rat. Why should he venture into a dumpster, or so he thought. His nosiness was too strong to be reasoned with. Issei didn't get a clear look. Like normal humans, he couldn't see that well in the shadows, but from the figure, he took a guess that the rat was a small girl. A small girl with a swaying tail as she darted towards him. Even in the dark, they shone a bright golden glow. He would have mistaken her as another Kunu, but their eyes were of lighter shade. Amber rather than golden. Like the color of a setting sun instead of golden bars. Issei decided to freak out. He wanted to scream, but it was stuck in his throat, and only came out as a small whimper signifying the absence of hope. He wanted to run like no tomorrow and get the hell away from this darn alley, but his feet were frozen to the ground. Azazel's words chimed in his brain like a painful reminder, and his life flashed by like a bullet train. And at that desolate moment, all he could think about was his immense regret of dying without ever seeing or touching a woman's ample bosom. His heart officially burst when the supernatural pounced on his stomach, but suddenly, like a rush of adrenaline, with instincts raised and hardened from the divine judgment delivered by the kendo girls, Issei magnificently dodged the attack. He heard a crude sound of someone hitting the snow, and swiveled around, and there she was, laid face first on the snow with her butt flaunted in the air, with a white slender tail sticking out from between the gap of her shirt and shorts. It was thinner compared to the kitsen's bushy counterpart, and white as the snows. Not the most proper clothes during this kind of weather, but Issei supposed she was resistant to cold like Kunu and Yasaka. She grunted with a silent voice as she lifted herself off the pile of snows, and Issei had the sense to take several wary steps sideward, in case she jumped at him again and he had to break to a dash. Who knew getting chased by those kendo girls made him a proficient runner? He noted she had a pair of white feline-like ears too. Unless she was amazing and devoted to cosplaying, those ears shouldn't be able to twitch and move like that. Are you okay? He shouldn't have asked. He should have made a run for it and stopped pushing his luck. So goddamn his easily tugged heartstrings. As if his awkwardly spoken words snapped her out of a trance, the girl's feline traits fluffed up in surprise, turning around to face him with a jump. Her slit black pupils dilated, eyeing him with suspicion. He confirmed she was indeed a supernatural, and small too. Probably not much older than Kunu, he thought. Issei also noted she didn't look so healthy and was eyeing at his burgers. Kunu's burgers. Issei reassessed the situation, and did the math. Do you want this? He asked in calm and collected voice, extending his plastic bag-holding hand. He figured Kunu could withstand a day without cheeseburgers. You can have it if you want. Her face twitched, and she looked confused, maybe wondering why her appearance didn't freak him out. Well, she did freak him out, but that had a different reason. If you're wondering, I've already heard of the supernaturals. I have two staying with me right now, in fact. Azazel didn't mention he's not allowed to tell he's a caretaker to the supernaturals. She was hesitating, but he was getting closer. Look, I won't bother you. I know my kind isn't so trustworthy yet, so I'll just leave this here and be on my way, okay? Issei put the plastic bag down, and started to walk away from it, thinking, why does it feel like I'm getting a stray cat to trust me? Hearing the sounds of the crackling plastic, probably her taking out the food, Issei smiled to himself. He did good today. Wait, Issei paused his walk. Somehow, he picked up her soft voice. Nearly a whisper, and as fragile as the falling snowflakes as if it'd melt. He turned around, and nearly shrieked when she was suddenly in front of him. He did not hear her footsteps at all. The same plastic bag in hand, she was looking up at him with big amber eyes and droopy white feline ears, and with a face that froze him faster than the weather. There was a new world champion of puppy face, and she wasn't Kunu. After a gulp, Issei asked her, yes? Can I? The plastic bag rustled as she held her petite body, a meaningless effort to fight the cold. Can I come with you? He did gain her trust. And his heart did pop. The wind howled, peppering the night with ice-white dust. With no signs of an improvement, once again the weather prediction was just that, a mere prediction. Yasaka could feel the tingly cold creeping underneath her turtleneck sweater, and that's telling a lot for a QB resistant to cold. Presently seated at the living room, fended off from the looming hail but not from uneasiness, Yasaka's golden-tinted eyes lingered at the snows rattling the windows. She watched the white powder piling up at the stiles of the windows, frosting the glasses in white as her mind wandered elsewhere. The front door had been left unopened since he left, and it's been 30 minutes past his usual time, and there hadn't been any signs of him ever since. Yasaka's worried. It didn't help that Issei didn't pick up her call. She wished she had learned how to use that tiny gadget. At least then she could text him a message, ask him where he was or what he was doing. If he was staying warm in a place. At least then she could do something other than sitting around, doing nothing. Going out to search for him was starting to become a need rather than a want, but that would mean she had to leave Kunu behind. She was able to hide her fox-like features for days, but Kunu wasn't. On top of it all, she would hate herself for causing trouble for her caretaker more than she had to. Clutching her chest, she could only hope and pray for his safety. Fortunately, her daughter was there to take her mind off things. In front of the running TV, she saw Kunu in the middle of her daily ritual, dancing to her action cartoon's catchy outro song. Her luminous tail flaying here and there, following her every motions and twirls as she ended it with a glitzy victory pose. Hands on hips, Kunu posed with a smile so smug she'd make an excellent magical girl, the cheery yet haughty one. Catching her mother's giggles, the little vulpine swiveled and trotted towards her, and stole a glance at the front door. Is Nighton home yet? Did her worry infected to her happy-go-lucky daughter? Kunu wants her cheeseburger. Nope, Yasaka smiled. Some things might never change. She didn't appreciate Azazel's influence on her pronunciation of certain things, but she'll overlook it this time. He'll be home soon, dearie. Be patient. But Kunu's not a patient. With a dull tone, Kunu puffed her cheeks, leaping to the sofa and plopping her head on her mother's lap. In tune with her emotions, her ears and tail slouched indolently. What if Nighton ate Kunu's burger? It's not nice to doubt other people, dearie. And it's Nighton's food, he bought it. Humming softly, Yasaka gently stroked her daughter's tresses. Smooth, never tangling, soft, and feathery like the finest golden silk. Though enjoying the treatment, Kunu stubbornly whined. It's not nice to eat others' food too. Especially Kunu's food. We don't know that. Yasaka patted her forehead lightly as a warning of an imminent cheeks pulling if she persisted. As always, it bred a pouty kitsune. Aren't you worried about Nighton? Kunu glanced up, holding her mother's golden eyes that she shared, and then placed her face on Yasaka's skirt with a disinterested, nah. Nighton will be fine. On second thought, maybe her carefreeness could use a change. A toning down would be appreciated. Well, while we wait, why don't we heat the bath for Nighton? A pair of fluffy ears perked up as Kunu let out an enthusiastic gasp. Okay. The excitement was short-lived, sadly. Mom, you said you'd call Nighton with issei. Yasaka blinked. Ah? You're right. Mommy forgot. Can Kunu take a bath with Nighton? Her mother's smile was gone in half of a second. No, and her ears drooped once again. Why? Here they come. A child's inquisitive questions are often difficult to answer. It didn't help that they had been living in recluse for so long as the general's common sense might have changed since then, but she's fairly certain boys still don't bath with girls, because then issei Dano will be troubled. She opted for the easiest choice. She didn't feel like explaining why boys are boys and girls are girls right now. Kunu tilted her head innocently. So it's okay if Kunu asked Nighton first? She rued she should have chosen a better reason. And then that's still a no-no, she said, and explained before she was asked the same question. Because Kunu is not a grown-up yet. On second thought, that wasn't any better. Yet the realization came too late. At the least, that would stop the questions from becoming a barrage as Kunu's spirit dimmed in an instant. Or so she thought. But Kunu's pretty grown-up, she's 10, you know, Mom. Soon she'll be 20 and be tall like Mom. The kitsune bead while her mother had a mini heart attack. Please don't grow too fast, dear. Yasaka muttered with genuine concern. Kunu's expressive ears took a jump as she sat up, her look of confusion apparent. Even her tail curled into a question mark shape. The very fluffy kind. Why doesn't Mommy take a bath with Nighton? She realized she's stepping into a dangerous territory. Because Mommy doesn't want to trouble issei Dano. But Mommy takes bath with Kunu, and she likes it. That's because Mommy loves Kunu and Kunu loves Mommy. Yasaka replied, getting up to bring a timely end to this topic. Leaping off the couch to trail along her mother, Kunu continued her series of queries. Huh? So Mommy doesn't take a bath with Nighton because Mommy doesn't love Nighton? All of her 9 tails fluffed up as Yasaka hurriedly turned around. And no. Of course Mommy loves Nighton. She couldn't believe she said that aloud. It's a given he wasn't here. So Nighton doesn't love Mommy? She gave up. It's a complicated matter, dear. She leaned to her daughter, who was all the more confused than before. It was then Kunu revealed her satisfied grin. It's because Nighton's a boy and Mommy is a girl, isn't it? Yasaka took a moment to register the sly fox her daughter had become. Goodness. With a deadpan look, Yasaka then proceeded to stretch both of Kunu's cheek until the girl stopped laughing and started whining in lamentation. Break. Achoo. Issei chewed brilliantly, rubbing his gloved hands and then rubbing his jumperless arms. Man, winter sure is cold. It's a useless fact, similar to saying people die when they are killed, but he'd say any nonsense to keep the thought of being frozen solid away. If this night in particular could speak, it would be laughing at him for underestimating its power. He felt like walking in a giant refrigerator. Are you okay? Hearing that quiet voice lined with worry, he gave the girl walking next to him the most reassuring smile he could manage, as silly as it might look. This? Oh, this is nothing. Idiots can't get cold. His brain processed what he had just said. Did I say idiots? I mean geniuses. His brain processed what he just said. Wait, I don't mean you're stupid if you catch a cold, but you know what I'm trying to say. If that was an attempt at comedy, he failed, because the girl refused to take her eyes off him. You should wear this, I'll take it off. No. It's totally A-okay. Issei assured, patting his arms and puffing out his chest. It looks better on you anyway. This time he wasn't joking, because she's the very definition of adorable. She looked as if his red jumper was about to swallow her neck while the sleeves had gobbled up her entire arms. Her tail was hidden in the jumper, but he could see her two feline ears prodding on his black beanie, and somehow, the frosty white powder on top granted her a certain cute charm he couldn't quite put. Issei would have given her his gloves too if they didn't fall each time she moved her hands. Or more correctly, the jumper's sleeves. He's a man, but that didn't mean he disliked cuteness. He'd give her a hug if he didn't have the concern of being seen as a creep or if police were nearby to mistake him as a criminal. And good job wondering all of that. He had just missed the luminescent red on her cheeks underneath all the white. Nonetheless, after getting over that unforeseen compliment, the worry latched onto her small face didn't fade. Will you be all right? Yep, he said promisingly, trudging through the sheets of snow, finding amusement watching his breath turning into white mist. But the guilt in her eyes told him she didn't believe him, and Issei thought of what he would say if she was Kunu instead. Well, if you still feel bad, then why don't you help me by talking? She looked up at him, sincerely puzzled. Talking? Her voice was so quiet he was surprised he heard all of her words so far. Make me not think about the cold. You know, the power of suggestion thingy. She dipped her chin a little. Right, so he thought of a topic that wouldn't make her feel awful or accidentally brought up her pasts. The simple things like, how was the burger? Was it any good? With just the ghost of a smile, the girl nodded again. Yes, I thought I wouldn't have anything to eat today, it was delicious. Thank you very much. Don't mention it, he laughed sheepishly. Wow, great job, me. Well done. He should punch himself, he figured. He wanted to punch himself. Maybe slap. Punching himself didn't seem to be a pleasant idea, but it's the fitting punishment for his recklessness. I'll get you more next time. While he was busy mentally chastising himself, Shyon was busy with the thought of next time. Not wanting to get the second strike, he thought hard and carefully on his next question. So, you're like part cat, huh? If you don't mind, what's your species called? Maybe she was still distrustful of him, because she veered her eyes away from his. I'm a nekashu. That explained her feline traits. Is that a variety of an ikomata? She nodded. So you're a yokai too then? That's cool. Too? She tilted her head in an angle, looking at him for a while before giving the snowy path her attention. Well, the two supernaturals staying with me are kitsune. He waited for a reaction. So far, there was none. Issei supposed she's not much of a talker. Do your people have a relationship with them? He supposed using cat-fox as a comparative term would be rude. She shook her head, shaking off some of the snow on her oversized beanie. Yokais used to live together a long time ago, but not anymore. I don't know why. I wasn't born back then. You weren't, huh? He snickered. Her voice might be as quiet as the streets, and he might not have a supernatural hearing ability, but Issei had a pair of ears keen for sarcasm. Back at the house, there's a QB about your age. How old are you anyway, Shyon-chan? 15. Issei laughed. Well, Kun is 10, but she likes to claim she's older too. I don't. And I didn't. she said with the slightest narrowing of her hazel eyes, but she delivered the graveness and slight peeve binding her voice all right. Yet Issei didn't believe her. She seemed serious, but was she playing a prank on him? She didn't look malnourished, and she didn't look like she's lying. I'm not playing a prank on you. Right. My bad. Issei duly noted, suddenly finding it hard to look at her in the eyes. He learned her stare could pierce. And here he thought he had seen everything to be seen. What a world full of surprises. Break. They exhausted their topics not long after. He couldn't think of any, and Shyon appeared to be too tired to talk. Silence reigned like the cold, accentuated by the wail of the winds and the cruel drop of the temperature. Issei couldn't wait to jump into a bathtub or into Yasaka's motherly warmth. The latter option would be a super effective method to thaw and perhaps melt him completely, but he could only hope. The house wasn't far off now, and Issei could see its light in the distance, along with the lights of other houses. Some more minutes of walking and he'll be welcomed by the familiar warmth, and the prior thought alone was enough fuel to fight off the brewing hail. We're just about there, he said, breaking the silence as Issei glanced to his right. How are you doing, Shyon-cha? She wasn't there. Shyon-chan? Confuzzled by her disappearing act, Issei glanced around, at a loss. He scratched his snow-piled hair and jumped in place to stay warm while looking for her. The sky was gray and night was bound to fall, but the streetlights remained unlit. The snow-paved road wasn't any help either. They're not as bright as they were in the day, and everything seemed to be a picture of black and white scenery. It was haunting, but beautiful. What was he doing again? Not wanting to risk it, Issei decided to retrace his steps. It could be that she suddenly felt shy and hid away, which in that case, he'd walk home and hope to meet her tomorrow or later. He's lending her his jumper and beanie, not giving them away. Though, she did seem to need them more. Nonetheless, Issei froze as he saw a red dot in the distance, in the right side of the street, at the pavement. He walked not long ago. He felt a punch in the gut. The wind rushed against his face as he ran through the sleet. Her ashen face dragged his heart to a bottomless pit. Shit, hey. He shook her shoulders frantically, his coldness melted by anxiety and panic. Hey! Shyon-chan! Ah shit. A wave of relief swept away some of his unpleasant feelings as her eyes twitched, but remained closed. His worry worsened as he noticed her body feverishly shivering and how flushed her cheeks were, and it wasn't a reflection of his sweater. He calmed himself. He had to deal with this. Freaking out could wait for later when he had dealt with this. Hang in there. Carefully lifting her to his hands, foregoing her fretting lightweight, Issei dashed as fast as his feet could carry while still paying attention not to slip and trip. During his run, Shyon curled into a ball, making herself smaller as she was drawn in by the warmth of his thumping chest. They arrived at the front door in no time, but having no free hands to pull the handle or knock, Issei resorted to using his head. Door was hard and it hurt. It swung open not long after Issei realized he could have used his foot to kick the goddamn wood, revealing a Kunu in a brown bear onesie. Nightin! Kunu's overjoyed expression waned away as she realized he wasn't alone. Huh, goodness! Issei-dano? Seeing his snow-ridden state, Yasaka gasped, before noticing the small girl in his hand. She pulled Kunu inside to make way for the two. Hurry, come inside, and that is what he did, immediately heading to the living room. Leaving puddles of his snowy adventure behind, Issei gently laid the nekasha on the sofa as the girls followed suit. At times like this, he had to be calm. He had told himself to be calm. He didn't know what to do, but he'd try. Hey, are you alright? The older Kyubi asked, anxious of his well-being, but he was more concerned about hers. Yasaka-san, what did you do? Running is tiring, he noted. When you helped me back then? Aye, it's okay, I'm just ran, out of breath. Help the another breath, girl. Calming her nerves with a shake of her head, Yasaka sat by the unknown girl. Gently, she pulled her into her lap and held her close as how she would to her daughter. Issei-dano, how long has she been like this? Not that long. Hopefully Issei paused to catch some air. It was down the road in this neighborhood. I ran back here as fast as I could. Will she be alright? If so, she'll be fine. Good job, Issei-dano. Oh. I see, dear. She offered an assuring smile as the nekasha's painful look started to fade. It was nothing, Issei replied with the same smile. It's nice to be appreciated. It's nice to be called a dear too. Yasaka's nice. Albeit relieved and all fuzzy on the inside, Issei felt a tinge of jealousy. He wondered if that's really what she did to him too, and he really was unconscious when he was that close to her chest. If that was the case, then he'll regret that day forever, for it might as well have been his only chance. Meanwhile, Kunu was waiting on the other sofa. She knew when to butt in, and now's not the time. So with her palms on cheeks and body lied flat, the vulpine in a bare garment curiously spectated, wondering how things would ensue rather than being worked up. It's a bit frustrating how carefree she looked. How well, that was one hell of a day, Issei sighed as his breathing steadied and the fright subsided. He didn't even feel cold anymore, just drenched. Snows melt, apparently. I'd better change before I make more of a mess. Why yes, don't get cold, Azazel. I've warmed up your bath for you. She noted her daughter's frown. Kunu and I did. Kunu smiled, satisfied. Thanks, Yasaka-san. Issei beamed a smile as he ruffled Kunu's golden hair. You too, Kunu. You look cute in that. Mfuhi, Uncle Z bought it for Kunu. The girl muttered happily with tail swishing around. It must be a chore to stick her bushy tail through the suit's little hole. And she always looks cute, Knighton. Snickering at her smug smirk, Issei succumbed to the urge of rolling his eyes. Yeah. As he disappeared upstairs, Kunu stared at her mother and the stranger, watching her move ever so slightly, groaning quietly in her sleep, and then nuzzled her mother's belly like her mother was her mother. What's this odd feeling in her chest? It's nothing pleasant, that's for sure. Mom, how long is Mommy going to hold her? She asked, barely concealing her annoyance. Two could play the game, and with a sly smile, Yasaka replied, until she's warm enough, dearie. She said, why didn't Mommy do the same to Isidano? It's a complicated matter. Kunu groaned. Her Knighton was too big to be considered as a rival. On the other hand, she's too proud to show she felt threatened. Yasaka giggled, but her smile disappeared as Issei reappeared with a pair of fresh clothes and a towel to wipe his face. I see-san? You didn't take a bath? I'll do it later, he said apologetically as he scratched his head, taking a seat beside Yasaka to have a look. On another note, it should be noted Yasaka was stunning in a purple turtleneck knitted sweater and a long skirt. It heightened her mature charms for one, and it emphasized her ample breasts for two. Issei was having trouble where to look. He knew where, and the temptation was killing him, but he knew it's inappropriate as his father's words echoed deep in his conscience. There's a time and place for everything, no wait. That's Oak's voice. Punting away the thought, Issei took a look at the white-haired girl. She's fast asleep. He wouldn't blame her. Yasaka's lap must be insanely comfortable, he thought. Oh, and she must be tired. She was scraping something to eat at the back of a restaurant. He began, and already Yasaka was moved. She was? She let off a tiny gasp. You poor thing, Issei resisted poking her wilting ears. Yeah, I didn't think she'd come along with me, but she did anyway. And he's happy she did. Is it alright if we let her stay for a while? No use dilly-dallying. Her? Oh, I have no qualms against it. The decision isn't mine to make, but I think you should ask Azazel-sama, Isidano. She said politely, and quietly as to not wake up the Nekashu. That is, if you intend to let her stay here for a longer while, do you know if she has a family of her own? Issei rubbed his neck, his habit whenever he's unsure of things. I don't know, I didn't ask. I mean, she didn't smell, but she was rummaging through garbage. It'd be awkward if she doesn't. I see you were considering her feelings. You're a kind person, I see. Thanks. He was pressing his lips hard to not break to a wide, victorious grin. He couldn't suppress it well, though. You're very much welcome. Yasaka smiled gently and serenely. She's so small, and her sympathetic tone returned. Do you know how old she is? 15. At 15? Yep. I was surprised too. Surprised that she's a legal loli, that is, as this country's age of consent was frighteningly low. But considering its population's steady decline as his thoughts went deeper, Issei took it up upon himself to increase the birth rate. Vively, there's a moment of silence passing by until Yasaka spoke. I'll bring her to my room to wash her. I've prepared dinner, please feel free to go ahead without me, I see dear, but I want to eat together with you. Like he could say that. Alright, thanks again Yasaka-san. The word dear lingered in his mind for a little while longer as he looked at her with a dreamy look, until Yasaka levitated Shyon to the air without muttering a spell and walked away, vanishing into her room with the girl floating behind. He still had to get used to the supernatural power. It'd be lame if he screamed because a cup was floating around all of a sudden. Well then, I'm taking a bath now, he proclaimed, glancing at Kunu. Have you eaten yet, Kunu? No, P. Kunu smiled, then erased it with terrifying ease. Where's Kunu's sustenance? His eyebrows scrunched. How and where did you learn that word? Kunu knows more than Nighton thinks she knows. Issei paused at her answer, until her look turned grim and suspecting. Nighton, where's Kunu's Chizubaga? Ah. Issei lifted a finger. About that. After an arduous negotiation, the two parties reached an agreement at last. Kunu will forgive him with one term, a trip around the living room on his shoulders. After he finished cleaning the snow off him, of course. As she tended to say, Kunu's a lenient QB. Break. The air was like frozen lace on her skin, delicate and icy, and she started to bend her body to get all the heat she could. She peered up. He was getting further and further away. He's leaving her. No, she tried to walk faster, but the sheer coldness had chained her feet. Her eyelids were heavy, and black blurred the edge of her acute vision. The world slowly began to spin, and the cold was starting to bite into her consciousness. Her lips quivered. Wait! She was too weak. Her throat ached, and there was snow in her shoes. He was getting smaller and smaller while her vision blurrier and blurrier. Her breath was a haze. It's snowing yet she feels as if she is burning. She's getting scared. If she fell asleep, she's sleeping forever, but she felt she was already living in a nightmare. She didn't want him to leave. Shyon cried out his name, hoping the wailing wind could carry her voice to him. Again they didn't. The world swirled, and the distant black dot perished in the whites. With one final step forward, the white sheets caught her in their cold embrace, the image of her lost sister gradually fading away into the darkness. She woke up from her nightmare with a gasp. Heart pounding, mind empty, eyes hurting and cheeks runny. Every sense urged her to claw her way to sit up and get herself reoriented, but she remained bound on the soft material wrapping her in warmth and a coziness she had become unfamiliar with. How long had it been since she last slept on a mattress? More importantly, how long was she gone? Why was she in a bedroom and not out in the freezing cold? How are you feeling, dear? Never had she thought the soft, caring tune of a beautiful young woman would petrify her, but it did. Seeing the girl move away in panic, Yasaka panicked. Oh goodness! It's okay, don't be scared. I'm Yasaka, Isidano's friend, she said softly, leaning forward slightly on her chair. Isidano? As her memory returned piece by piece and the image of the man grew vivid, she felt safe. She noted the pair of golden furred ears and 9 luxurious tails of a fox, seemingly catching all the glow from the nightstand beside her. She's a QB, she concluded. She blinked once, and sat up groggily. She realized she was now wearing a white sweater with the appropriate size for her body. Yasaka patiently waited. How did I get here? Her coarseness caught her by surprise. Every word felt like it ground the walls of her throat. Please have a drink first, dear, Yasaka implored, handing her the glass of water she had settled at the bedside table. The girl gladly accepted, muttering a quiet thank you afterwards. Do you not remember anything? Isidano told me you two were heading here when you fainted. He carried you here, Shyon-chan, isn't it? She nodded, staring into the empty glass with a sullen look, before looking at the QB's eyes. How long was I? Oh, you were 1 hour away from making it into a whole day. I hope you don't mind that I changed your clothes. It's okay, thank you, Shyon muttered. Then she was slightly ticked off by the notion that this sweater belonged to the aforementioned 10-year-old QB. But only just. Her gratefulness outweighed her annoyance. I've only wiped your sweat since yesterday. I hope you won't mind. Yasaka's ears drooped. I think you might want to take a bath, or you can have dinner. You must be horribly hungry. On cue, her stomach expressed its lack of food. A fervent blush splayed her pale face. Yasaka giggled in a kind-hearted manner. I think it's best if you eat first. In the meantime, I'll heat up the bath for you. Leaving her seat, the adult QB then excused herself to leave the room, taking the empty glass along. Before she left, Shyon shifted on the queen-sized bed, and saw the QB's 9 golden tails bouncing as she walked. Thank you very much. She received a warm smile in return. You're very much welcome. Please take your time and make yourself at home during your stay, Shyon-chan. Then the kind QB left the room, using one of her tails to coil around the doorknob and shut it close. Crumpling the blanket, The word chimed several more times in her head, as it then resonated down to her lips. Home, what a beautiful word. At the moment savoring Yasaka's marvelously cooked dishes, Issei took note of the chef's arrival upon the dining table. Before speaking, he chewed down the fried fish. He didn't want to get reminded of his manners. How's she, Yasaka-san? Is she up yet? She woke up not long ago. Issei nodded affirmatively as Yasaka took a seat beside her daughter, who was in the middle of plucking the broccoli off her fried rice. Dear, please eat your vegetables. Kunu flopped her ears. Meh, Kunu. And came the mother's inarguable tone of finality, and with that, Kunu's petulant whine followed. Happy that her daughter's listening, albeit reluctantly, Yasaka returned to the topic. I see, did Shyon-chan mention having a sister? Her soft voice was just enough to snap him out from his daze of being witness to the mother-daughter interaction. Huh? Oh. No. I don't think she did. Oh, did something happen? Yasaka's eyes peered down at her bowl of rice. Issei could notice the sadness lingering in them. He also noticed the white tips of her fox-like ears slumping down slightly. He also noticed how badly he wanted to poke them. Before she woke up, she called for her Wani-sama several times. She muttered, and Issei snapped out of it. She was crying as well, the poor girl, maybe they were separated. Kunu dear, don't make mommy repeat what she said. Kunu gave up. Well, that's a relief. Issei glanced at the unopened bedroom door. That means she's not always by herself, right? It can be pretty harsh out there. That was based on experience. Yasaka frowned, for both the man and the girl on her bed. It must be difficult living by yourself. You're amazing, I see. Well, I mean, it has its ups too. Issei laughed nervously. He didn't have to worry if someone barged in his room when he's in the middle of all boys and men's sacred routine. Except the government. Damn that Azazel for making him paranoid. But I did it all because that's what I wanted. While Shyon-chan as well, maybe she didn't have any choice. The mood took a heavy turn. Even Kunu was aware of the change of air. Anyway, it's not right to pity her. Issei concluded, continuing his dinner. I've told Azazel and he said he'll look to it right away, hopefully at least. Nighton, it's not nice to doubt someone. Yasaka paused, and let off a giggle. This girl, I can't believe I'm getting reminded by Kunu. He thought aloud, much to Kunu's peeve. She was about to have a say, but he continued, for the time being, can we look after her? She can sleep in my bedroom. Good thing he had gone past his puberty phase and knew when to clean up and where to do his business. Then where will you sleep, I see? Yasaka's ears perked up, as did Kunu's. Why can't I sleep with Nighton? I can sleep on the sofa. I'm not too bothered by the cold. He nudged at the living room. And it's because you're an adult, Kunu. Then Kunu's not an adult. She's a juvenile, and juveniles should sleep with their mothers. Yasaka ended the argument, though she was amazed by Issei's smoothness in dealing with her kids niggling. Still, we can't have that, I see, dear. My bed has enough room for the three of us. I know, but that's not the reason. She might not be comfortable yet sleeping together, I mean. Oh. Yasaka oed. Well, this time, more mellow. You're right. Then why don't Nighton sleep with us, please? That won't work either, Kunu. Why not? Fumed Kunu. Getting shot down constantly could be quite vexing. Before Yasaka could think of an answer, Issei beat her to it. Because you should only sleep with someone you've spent a long time with, like your mother. But she realized there's no debating that reason. TCH. Manners, young lady? Yes, Mom, Kunu sighed. It was then her ears picked up a click coming from her bedroom. Glancing over, she announced the girl's arrival with jubilant glee. Oh. It's Nikani! And with that, she darted over to the girl, utilizing the meet and greet as an excuse to abandon the dreaded little trees. Hiya! I'm Kunu, nice to meet you. Hi, Shyon startled. The Nekasha flinched as the little vixen stuck her nose into her feline features as if she's an object of interest. Why is your tail smaller than Kunu's? Issei couldn't deny the Nekasha's drowsy look and bed hair hairstyle was adorable. Her height and small frame that was similar to Kunu's made them look like elementary friends. But Nikani? She made that up herself. Yasaka word, Kunu, please don't trouble Wani-chan and finish your meal. Shyon-chan, please take a seat. Mommy's food is delish. Kunu said as she dragged the unsettled girl along with her. You can have Kunu's greens too. You finish your own meal, young lady. TSK. As the two took their seats, Kunu being her inescapable fate, and Shyon in a state of shock of how quick that developed. Yasaka recalled one thing. Oh goodness! I forgot to heat the bath. Don't mind me and enjoy dinner, please. I see. Please make sure Kunu eats her vegetables. Settling her eating utensils, she walked to the bathroom. Nodding, Issei stole a moment to enjoy and appreciate her bouncing gorgeous tails, wondering how soft they would feel in his hands. How frustratingly close and yet so far they were at the same time. It's unfair. He glanced at the girl next to him afterwards. She had passed her shell-shock state, and was visibly craving the ordinary set of meals in front of her. Issei couldn't help but smile. Go on ahead, Shyon-chan, Issei said, offering her the bowl of rice he made and a set of chopsticks. Help yourself. Gingerly, she grabbed the bowl, then the plastic chopsticks. She looked at them for a while with a certain look Issei could only decipher as sorrow, and maybe disbelief. It made him wonder how long she had been out there. She took up a piece of food, a small portion of the fried salmon. Shyon took one bite of it along with a lump of rice. As she ate, Issei beamed a little smile. How was it? She gulped. It's delicious. It's all right. Eat whatever you want. He whispered softly, stroking her white hair as he would to Kunu, slow and gentle, hoping by doing he could ease her, somewhat, even for a tiny bit. And little by little, her snivels grew into sobs, and her sobs racked her small frame, and then nothing seemed to be able to stop her tears or Kunu's. He found out that happiness and misery could be felt at the same time. It was the hardest dinner he ever had by far. Issei wished he wouldn't have to sit through that ever again. There's a rainbow after a rain, but it snowed last night, so no rainbows. The soft white blankets were a close replacement, however. It might not be as colorful, but it's touchable, soft, and affably cold. The entire lawn, the chairs, the bushes, the leafless tree, the Kunu who was busy creating questionable-tailed snow angels, the tall fences, everything was covered in plump white snow. Not too thin and not too thick. It was not a grand backyard. No elaborate ornament, or a styled bonsai tree, but it was large enough for the young vixen to shuffle around without hitting her head on stuff constantly. Yasaka wouldn't ask for more, except, she thought, maybe for the bill for their kind to move freely to be approved sooner. Kuna had never complained, but she would never say no to more spelunking places. Simple afternoon walks to the town's park would be nice, or the grocery stores so Issei wouldn't have to do all the work. Or maybe a visit to the only shrine regardless, anywhere would be appreciated. Yasaka glanced just at the right time to witness her daughter dive headfirst into a mound of snow with the grace of a professional swimmer, effectively lodging half of her body as her tail pointed in the air like a frozen lick of burnished golden flame. Oh dear. Good morning, Yasaka-san. A winter-clothed Issei came out the sliding glass door just at the right moment to witness the spectacle, and then gave her a questioning look 1 second after, before sighing loud enough, Good morning, Kunu. Wagging her tail right and left upon hearing his voice, Kunu's muffled reply came shortly afterwards as her legs kicked the air. Her tail stopped being hyper as she found she was marvelously stuck in the pile, however, and what followed onward was her whine for help. The first time, it was adorable and funny. So were the second and the third with slightly less impact. But the seventh in a week? That's pushing it. Even Yasaka showed little reaction to her daughter's antics. Issei rubbed the back of his sore neck, contemplating his choice of sleeping on the couch while he stared blankly at Kunu or what was visible of her. I'll go help her, thank you, Issei. Not minutes later, Kunu was safely rescued from the lump of snow that broke down like a small white avalanche. The little vixen did a brief shake of her body and head and lastly her tail, whipping away the white powders latched on her hair and clothing. After greeting her caretaker, Kunu proceeded to continue running laps around the backyard for the foreseeable future. Feeling chilly, Issei retreated back to the wood-paneled porch, picking his seat at a somewhat close but not too close distance from the grown Kyubi. He wouldn't dare risking any awkwardness this early in the morning. The closest best thing to not be awkward was not to think about it, so that is what he did, but Yasaka nearly made him jump as she glanced at him. Issei thought she caught him staring at her glorious bushy tails. I see, dear, has Shyon woke up yet? He cleared his throat, secretly thanking whoever handled his luck. To be called dear by someone this beautiful is a blessing. I don't think so. I haven't seen her yet. She's still asleep probably? And then if that is so, is it fine if we let her be? That's what I'm thinking. Issei pulled a small smile. Being able to see her kind expression and hearing her soft soprano every day was a blessing not all men could have. And speaking of which, Yasaka-san? Yes? Yasaka looked away from Kunu to look at him. She always looked at the person she's speaking to, he noticed. Can I ask you where Kunu's father is? He could have worded it better, made it subtler so it wouldn't be as blunt. But at 7 in the morning, fixing his bed hair didn't even cross his mind yet, let alone being subtle. HMMN. I myself too wonder about that. She hummed. Issei wasn't sure what to make of her apparent lightheartedness to this topic. In doubt, he supposed the most decent response was, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's fine, I see. It happened a long time ago." She gave him a kind smile. "I suppose you don't know, but it's not a rare occasion. Not just for us kitsune, but for yokai in general. We are an endangered kind, and having a child is a responsibility I'm very happy to take." With another mellow hum, Yasaka glanced over to her daughter. "And one I'm glad I took." And then Kunu dove to another mound. Well, most of the time, kind, beautiful, and a loving mother. What a great woman she was, thought Issei as he yanked Kunu off the snow. He could only hope to have a wife as kind and caring as her. Pwa dash! Kunu exclaimed. She did the shaking snow dance ritual again, brushing away a small heap with a quirky flick of her tail. Thanks. If Kunu's bright and infectious smile was his payment for his labor, then Issei certainly wouldn't mind. Tail flying around, balls of her feet bouncing, Kunu peeked past Issei's side to look at the porch. "Men, Nightin, where's Nikini? Is she up yet?" Why did everyone expect him to know if the girl was up or not? But before he could reply, both of Kunu's ears perked up as excitement gleamed in her amber eyes. "Oh! There she is!" She burst right past him and her mother not seconds later. Exchanging glances with Issei, Yasaka carefully rose and headed inside to join in the welcome wagon, as did the caretaker himself. How was Nikini-chan's sleep? Can Nikonkani still hear when she sleeps? Kunu sometimes does. Why are Nichan's ears white? Oh! Can Kunu touch them? She arrived just in time to save their guests from Kunu's barrage of questions. The intention might be nice, but Shyon was clearly overwhelmed. And with that still sleep-ridden look, she didn't seem to be the morning person catgirl, Issei supposed. That said, the nekasha on the sofa looked criminally adorable. She was wearing Issei's thickest coat, and she was making herself smaller than she already was by hugging her knees. It's hard to believe she was only a few years younger than him, not to mention her heirs. Hers and Kunu's and also Yasaka's. So close but yet still so far away. Life couldn't be crueler to him. Why must he adore fluffy things? Kunu dear, don't disturb her too much. Yasaka gently patted Kunu's head, who then whined and bolted her mouth. It's obvious the myriad of questions was still brewing in her mind. I apologize for her nosiness, but please understand. We rarely meet someone new. A thought rang in Issei's head just after he admired the newcomer's looks. It must have been unpleasant to be living like a recluse, doing the same thing for who knows how long over and over until it became a routine. He wanted it to change, but at the moment, he could only hope. It's okay, Shyon spoke drowsily. Her voice was even more silent than it normally was. He probably wouldn't be able to hear her if it was rowdy. Which brought another curious question to his mind. Do yokai have sharper hearing? How much do they resemble their animal counterparts in terms of senses and ability? He could tell Kunu was nimbler and seemed to have an endless energy, but that might just be her. While Issei was busy questioning life mysteries, Yasaka continued the small talk. Did you have a nice sleep? Why yes, it's nice, thank you. Mom, why didn't Nightin sleep with Kunu and Mommy? Mommy's not falling for the same trick, sweetie. Boo. Anyway, it's too early to ponder these questions. Snapping out of his thoughts, Issei found out he was being stared at by the girls. Normally, those would be demeaning, half-joking kinds of stares, but they were looks of worry and maybe slight confusion. I see? Realizing it was rather overwhelming, Issei shivered and blinked several times and played it off with a laugh. You're sorry, I'm still sleepy, I guess. What was it again? Geez, Nightin should pay more attention. Look who's talking. She bit back with a smug look. Kunu's talking. Issei allowed her an easy win this time. His vigor hadn't filled up yet. Nothing that couldn't be handled by a cup of coffee, of course. I see, dear. I was asking if you would like some coffee. He didn't know she could mind read. Why, yeah. Yes, please, thank you, Yasaka-san. With a light tune, Yasaka waltzed to the kitchenette, browsing through the cupboards while Kunu resumed her interrogation. Issei decided to stay and have a little chat with the two. Not every day he'd see a cat and a fox together on a couch. Was it rude to use that as a euphemism? Chew! Her silent sneeze somehow startled both Issei and Kunu. It was kawaii as fuck, but it got him a bit worried. Cats aren't that fond of cold, and maybe she shared that same trait. Are you cold? But it's not that cold? Wiggling her ears as the surprise settled, Kunu scooted closer and gave Shyon a nice warming hug, now startling the Nekashu as a faint red streak smeared her cheeks. I am fine, Shyon managed. She then tried to push the vixen as politely as possible. Please get off me. But Kunu's warm? Kunu drooped her ears in confusion and gloom, tilting her head slightly so her ears fell sideways. Never had Issei wanted to touch them as bad. He couldn't imagine himself being in the Nekashu's position. He wouldn't know what to do with that puppy face or vixen face, maybe. Shyon was more at loss than he was. Faced with such a genuinely guilt-ridden expression, she struggled to say a single word. She ended up shriveling herself, and spoke in the quietest of voices. Okay. Her ears recharged in an instant, and with a joyful squeal, Kunu latched onto her like she did and would, hugging her not with just her arms but her tail as well. It coiled around Shiron's petite frame. Uneasy at first, Shyon got comfortable fast. It was as if she was melting. Someone else was melting too. His jealousy was catching on. It's unfair. Not wanting to risk turning green with envy early in the morning, Issei left the two to check up on Yasaka or do whatever, maintaining a poker smile he had perfected in the last few weeks. See? Kunu's warm, right? Why yes. Mfufunikani, why is your tail so thin? Can I touch it? Like touchy-touchy? Issei would like to be touchy as well. He better move away fast. And that he did. Unfortunately, seeing the vixen's mother tails bouncing as she moved around the kitchen didn't help his fixation very much, if at all. Noting the young man taking a seat on the stool, Yasaka glanced past her shoulder. I see. Your coffee isn't ready yet. Would you like something to eat as well? There's still a few eggs left. Yes, please, thank you, Yasaka-san. Issei said, making a note to make rounds to the grocery store later. Maybe slouching on the counter would help. Nope. Yasaka's soothing humming still entered his mind, and he still could see her, walking around in an indescribable fluent yet enchanting manner. He could still hear the girls chatting in the living room well, mostly just Kunu, but that's because she's the loudest. Either way, he couldn't find his inner peace. Then there were knocks on the front door, and as it opened, Issei took a peek at his potential savior. Howdy everybody, Azazel here. The fallen angel so cheerily announced as he swung his dark coat at the coat hanger nearby. For a free meal. Issei dryly announced. Indubitably. Laughed the carefree man as he greeted Yasaka and vice versa, taking a seat at Issei's side and slammed his back. Issei fed, and Yasaka's ears flinched at the noise, but Azazel paid no mind. So, what's for breakfast? Air. Issei flatly replied. Very cold air. There's only eggs. Will omelet be alright? Anything is fine as long as it's your dishes, but just eggs? Azazel looked horrified. Boy, you must do something about this. I can't eat eggs every day. Issei kept his dry tone. Right. Come on, don't be so grumpy so early in the morning. Azazel chuckled lightly, all cheeky smiley and vibrant. It was a bit annoying. He then seemed to recall something. So, where's the Nekashi you mentioned? Huh. I thought you're just here for the food, Azazel. I was. Oh. Of course, she's in the living room with Kunu. Yasaka said, looking at his eyes to maintain eye contact. She was so polite even in informal conversations that Issei started to question his mannerism. Well, you're tagging with me, boy. I don't remember agreeing to that. After a brief share of glances that said, come with me or I'll tell her you're looking at her, but although it was practically impossible with those tails, Issei made the wise choice. Back to the living room, which was now livened by Kunu's daily show's opening tune that had become an earworm for him, and Kunu's dancing ritual that had become his source of reliable daily entertainment. The show didn't make any sense. It was something about a man that got hit by a truck and was somehow transferred into another world because magic. Apparently, he was destined to be the magical girl to combat the men with funny mustaches. Issei didn't question it. It's anime. It's meant to be enjoyed, not questioned. He didn't question why Shyon seemed amused either. Just as Kunu was about to do the finishing twirl, and right before Azazel could snatch any picture with his cell phone, his arrival was noted and Kunu ended her dance prematurely. It led to Azazel's eye of disappointment. "Ah, Uncle Z," she greeted, dumping her show for the moment as she ran at the fallen angel. "Always greet your guests" must have been planted in her. Ciao. Issei hoped she would not mimic this man's phrases now. "Did you bring Kuna anything?" Making a face, Azazel stared at the vixen bouncing on the balls of her feet. "Straight to the point, aren't you?" "But no, Kuna. I didn't." She stopped bouncing. "Boo stingy. Stingly Uncle Z. Your Z stands for stingy." Issei snrked while Azazel laughed. "Kunu, behave." Kunu joking anyway, and so, she ran back to the couch, making a leap that her mother made a tiny fuss about. "Don't jump on furniture, kids," no matter how jump-able they looked. After that short commotion, the two noted that they were being stared by a pair of nervous amber eyes. And by they, it was just Azazel. Good. Because Issei wouldn't want to be distrusted by Shyon. Or anybody else. Azazel took a casual stroll to the sofas, taking a seat at a lone armchair as he rested his limbs. Shyon kept a wary watch on him while Kuna kept an unwary watch on the TV. "Issei?" He felt awkward standing, so he joined Azazel, sitting in the other armchair. He tried not to let the show's bizarre soundtrack disturb his listening. This seemed more serious than he thought it would be, so Azazel began without any pressure in his nonchalant tone. "Shyon, right? I'm Agent A, from the MIB. Her ears shriveled, perhaps in worry, and the expression she wore was similar to when he offered her his burgers, Kuna's burgers. It was filled with uncertainty and suspicion, but she gave a small nod in the end. "No, he's not," Issei dryly added. "Unfortunately, he's right," cooed the fallen angel. "I'm Azazel, from the something-something agency. I'm what you can call an overseer, but please don't call me with that. That's a sure way to tempt Issei to call him that." But he settled on, "He stops here often for breakfast." "Free breakfast. And besides that, I also ensure the safety of the supernatural, such as Kuna here and her mother in the back, and this div here." Issei shrugged. "That's me. I'm the div. No need to be tense. Just relax, I won't deport you or anything." It was only a little, but the reassurance was welcomed. Shyon loosened her stiff shoulders, but she said nothing still. "But I do, however, need some answers. The questions are rather personal, but it's the standard stuff." "That cool with you?" She seemed unsure at first. And even though she agreed with another nod, she didn't seem sure with her decision. "Well then, I'll leave you two alone." The sleepiness had dissipated, but he would never refuse a coffee by now. Especially not when it's made by a lovely woman. But Azazel just had to stop him. "No, Issei, it's better if you stay." "Huh?" Issei raised an eyebrow. "But will that be alright for her?" "You said it's personal." It's okay." He failed to realize how moved Shyon was over that simple statement, because he's MC. And because that was simply basic considerateness for him. Azazel chuckled under his breath. "See? She doesn't mind." "Stay and sew your mouth and listen." Issei resettled on his comfy chair. Fine, yeesh. "Well then, before we start, I'm saying my sorry in advance. I have no intention of hurting your feelings, Kay?" The overseer restarted as he drew out his cell phone and touched it a few times. Right. We know you were with your sister last time you were seen. Do you know how your sister is doing?" "Ah, so she has someone else." "That's a relief," thought Issei. But she shook her head, and Issei wasn't as relieved anymore. "Okay, then what about your parents?" "There have been no reports as of yet, except that they're deceased." "Is this correct?" It wasn't a headshake this time. Sometimes, Issei hoped his speculations were wrong. "I see. That's unfortunate. My condolences." Azazel bit his lower lip, seemingly contemplating which questions to skip ahead as he browsed through some kind of a list in his phone. "We have looked everywhere for you and your sister. Both of you are even filed here as deceased. I won't question how you managed to stay hidden, but I'll need you to tell me everything you know." Issei didn't expect that. Kuna might have another competitor in hide and seek. Azazel's expressions lost its casualness all of the sudden. "We can't risk any stray supernatural, not just for their sake, but the humans as well. Those and this are the only questions I have to ask, so bear with me," he continued, and Shyon only grew anxious. Her face was as pale as yesterday. "Have you attacked a human?" Her eyes widened, and Issei gulped. What the hell was with this tension? He thought this was going to be a friendly chat. For a reason, Shyon was peering at him, and he could see the genuine distress in her amber eyes. Azazel narrowed his, and turned to look at Issei. Issei? Got anything to say? What? Did she attack you last night? You said you only met her. Attack? Issei took 5 seconds to process, and recall what happened last night. Oh. Well, if you count missing me and plowing the snow as an attack, then, yes, and his casual look returned. Huh. You know that still classifies as an attempted assault, right? Yeah, right, in the snow. Issei said, unfazed. You should get them to testify. Fair point. Azazel chuckled. He returned his attention back to the girl, whose face was equally red when she had a fever. P.F. Ahem. So, besides him, any other incidents? Shyon shook her head. Much to Issei's relief, Azazel nodded a few times, scrolling through pages in his mobile phone. It made Issei wonder how long the actual list of questions would be had he didn't skipped it. Perhaps having a laid-back overseer wasn't so bad after all. This here is a good one. Do you want to stay here? They both took 5 good seconds to register his question. They failed. Huh? First time you talk to me and it's a question. Come on, girl. Azazel gave way to a throaty laugh. Shyon made herself smaller. I'm sorry. It was then Kuna stepped in the fray. Yeah. Don't bully Nekonichin. Momentarily, at least. The show absorbed her quickly. Azazel snickered. Anyway, you know the goof and the kitsons already. If not, we'll look for another place for your homestay, and you'll have to spend some days with us, the government thing I mean. Sorry for this one. Even if it's against your will, you have to stay at some place. I have to do anything. Everyone who wasn't born today is already registered. Don't underestimate our power. Azazel said so proudly. Issei was starting to doubt him again. So? How's it gonna be? I don't want to rush or influence you, but you'll cut my work time if you say yes. Issei rolled his eyes. What about my sister? We'll keep looking for her, of course. Azazel assured. I'll even personally tell you if there's any progress in her search. I've got to say, though, she's pretty slick. The decision lied on her now, and yet still she peered at Issei as if he's the one whose decision mattered. So obviously, the only thing he could do was give her a supportive smile. Yes, yes. Say yes. Kuna's swaying tail swatted his face. He didn't mind one bit. It's exactly as soft and sanctifying as he thought. Smelled like autumn. What shampoo did she even use? But it was his turn to voice his opinion, and he did so with a somewhat straight face. He could save his smile for later. I don't mind sleeping on the couch some more nights. It's pretty comfy anyway. Issei noticed she had grown accustomed to Kuna's energetic nature rather quickly. That's good. Yet there was hesitation written on her tiny face. But I don't want to trouble anyone. Who said you are? And we already have a bigger hassle here. Kuna sent Issei a look and a pouty mouth. And I think she likes you already? The more the merrier, right? Kuna could agree on that. Yes, yes, you don't have to make your decision now. Azazel said gently. You have time. They're obviously willing to let you stay here. Well, do so for a few days. And you can contact me when you've made up your mind. I'll stay. As Kuna burst into a cheer and pounced on the new addition to their household, a smile found its way to Issei's face. If only he could express his joy as freely. Azazel smiled too, but was soon replaced by a self-satisfied smirk. Well then, my work here is done. Thanks to you, but mostly to me. He turned at Issei. You buy her some clothes, yeah? Don't make her change her mind. And don't be stingy. I'm not you, cheeky brat. Snickered the chill fallen angel. Later's Kunu. Okay, bye-bye. She then gave Azazel a quick fist bump before going back to pelt Shyon with hugs. Yet on his way to his exit, Yasaka was on her own way to the living room with a tray filled with 5 steaming mugs. Azazel-san, leaving already? I have just finished making you a coffee. Leaving? Did I say that? Azazel resettled on his seat. Issei didn't bother. He thought only of thanking Yasaka, the coffee, and the sight of Kuna hugging the living out of a troubled Shyon. Didn't take long for Yasaka to set her foot down. And by that, it was levitating her daughter to the air. She didn't trash about. It was futile. So instead she made the best out of her timeout by flinging her tail like a rotor. Kuna's a helicopter now. Issei and Azazel were the only people who laughed, as Yasaka offered Shyon a cup of hot chocolate, and with a gentle smile said, Welcome, Shyon-chan. Th. Thank you. After what happened last night, her tears of bundled joy were a nice change. Added with Yasaka's comforting embrace, it was a very nice change indeed. Though Kuna seemed lost on what to do, she joined in the group hug anyway, not wanting to feel left out, issei bet. A pat on his shoulder disturbed his moment of appreciating the scene. Turning his head, Azazel then gave him a nod, and excused himself, leaving quietly. Must had finished his drink, issei bet. But nonetheless, on this cold day, it's warm. Break. The addition of Shyon to their household brought another flavor. She didn't talk much, but it might be because she hadn't warmed up to them yet. They didn't mind, of course. Rome wasn't built in a day, and so wasn't trust. At least Issei knew he wouldn't mind. And he doubted that Yasaka or Kuna would either. Yasaka was too nice and she was mature and understanding, while Kuna's only care was that she made a new friend. Aside from that, now that there was someone else to look after her daughter, Yasaka had more freedom. She wouldn't have to worry about Kuna when she was out to buy groceries as much. Or worry about her daughter in general. She had to promise her snacks, otherwise Kuna would apparently convince Shyon to start a riot with her. A little scolding then ensued. She wouldn't want her daughter to threaten anyone, as adorable as she might be, and she was going to buy her some anyway, but that's not what bothered her. It was what she said afterwards. Fine, fine. Kuna gets it. Mommy wants to walk alone with Nighton. Those words wouldn't stop replaying like a broken record. She was only going with him to help him with the groceries, that was all. It didn't mean she didn't want to, not because she wanted to, but why did her daughter's words bother her so much? Yasaka-san? Why yes? His voice made her jump. Somehow. Even though it was softer than his usual tone, but she wasn't the only one that jumped. Why Yasaka-san, your ears, HM? Oh dear. Hurriedly, Yasaka palmed her fox ears and made them disappear from sight. It was fortunate there was nobody else there. The snow hadn't fallen, and hopefully wouldn't dash, but it was chilly still. Issei supposed the people around the neighborhood would rather stay in their cozy quaint home instead of freezing out in the open. Issei would as well. He enjoyed winters, but if he had to choose between heading to the supermarket to handpick and buy groceries, and lazing at his home and surviving the winter with instant noodles, he'd choose the latter in an instant. But that would mean Yasaka had to go there alone. Sure, she was resistant to the cold, and she wouldn't even mind had he stayed at home, but goddammit, what kind of man would let a young woman trudge through this weather and carry all the bags alone? On the plus side, he's on a walk with her. That's an instant win in his book. For once he was not alone. And she's a beautiful young lady way beyond his league too. He wouldn't be surprised if people mistook him as a creep. Which was kinda sad, now that he thought of it. As the fluster faded away, Yasaka calmed down enough, and asked, Yes, I see? Huh? Yeah, it was nothing. Issei awkwardly fixed his muffler. He must look rather weak next to her. He wore a full-fledged winter attire while Yasaka simply wore a sweater atop of her casual wear. You look troubled. Yasaka tilted her head. Troubled? Yeah, well, never mind. Maybe it's just me. A good soldier knew when to withdraw. Better to keep it casual than awkward and uncomfortable. A quick change of topic was needed. Do you like it here, Yasaka-san? Mm. She nodded. The neighborhood isn't noisy. It's not crowded as well. Her sweet giggles danced within his mind in an instant. As Issei did his best not to get nervous, Yasaka glanced at the dove-gray skies, wondering if it would snow later today. It's peaceful. Yeah, it's pretty quiet here. It was indeed peaceful. Hope it stays that way. Why is that I see Dano? Again with the Dano. He let it slip for now. Because, I want to have a peaceful life. He ended with a joking laughter. Oh. I'm sorry. He stopped. The sound of the scrunching snow faded. For some unclear reason, Yasaka looked down. And knowing what he said was the reason, it stung him hard. Wait, why? You said you want a peaceful life? With a dejected look, Yasaka rubbed her left arm. But you have to look after all of us, me, Kunu, and Shyon-chan now as well. It just occurred to me, you must have something you wanted to do before. I'm sorry. No, please don't. Good gods. And he thought Kuna's puppy face was devastating. Good thing he had his muffler to hide his face for a moment. Peace is great and all, but I'd like to be happy too, and I'm very happy with you guys around. It's less lonely. Maybe it's too soon to say this, but having you guys around is probably the best thing ever going to happen to me. Another laughter filled in the blanks as issei went on ahead. There's a market they both had to go to. Yet, as he noticed Yasaka wasn't walking along with him as there were no other footfalls in the snow, issei paused. Crap, so he swiveled around. Oh, was that too much? Yasaka enthralled him even if she was simply doing her everyday stuff. So when she was staring at the sleet-white floor, standing timidly, eyes wide and cheeks flaring red, with the same expression a girl from his class would wear when they were confessing to someone who wasn't him, his heart completely missed a beat, and she's a mother of one. Pure maidens still existed. He felt lucky nobody else was here. No one else was able to see such a wonder. I'm sorry, I'm just too happy from hearing that. Yasaka finally spoke, covering her cheeks and peeking from the edge of her fingertips. Thank you, Dano. Issei coughed into his muffler. And no problem. Their walk was quiet afterwards. The snow hugged onto everything like a day-old baby, new and clingy. Yet when all else was cold, there were bits of hidden warmth in this wintry time. Today, he found them twice. Break. What are you going to make later, Yasaka-san? Do you have anything you want to eat? Issei-san? I'll gladly eat anything you make, honestly, he said nonchalantly. Hands resting on the shopping cart, Issei glanced around the supermarket, past the housewives and their children, checking out all the veggies and general foodstuffs he wouldn't be buying if he was still living by himself. Okay. It was then Yasaka wished she wore a scarf. At least then she could hide her face. Do you have anything in mind? His eyes wandered some more, now latched at the faraway meat sections, when he cringed as he heard a butcher's knife cut through a thick piece of beef meat with ease. Well, I don't mean anything rude, but do you think Shyon-chan likes meat? By the time he looked at Yasaka, she had already calmed herself. Meat? She hummed. She did seem to like yesterday's dinner. Issei laughed lightheartedly. Come on, who wouldn't? He could have sworn he heard a whimper-like noise from her, but as he turned around, all he saw was her hands covering her face and the light giggles of the nearby housewives. Newlyweds sure are nice, Yufufu, so tittered one of the gossiping wives. We're not married. Issei would be happy if he could get a wife half as nice as her, though. Oh my, not yet. No, not that. But he was fighting a losing battle, he realized. Nothing he said would change their beliefs. Excuse us. With a polite bow, Issei took his retreat, and ushered a still furiously blushing Yasaka to the meat sections before her ears or her tails popped out. Away from the pesky wives, though he knew they meant well. Issei breathed a deep sigh. He didn't realize going shopping would have this kind of extra challenge. Picking the right vegetables was hard enough already. Sorry about that, Yasaka-san. He chuckled awkwardly. Again. For who knows how many times since the past hour. Delicately fidgeting with her slim fingers, unable to look at him in his eyes just yet, she replied quietly as she shook her head. It's okay, I don't mind. Really? You're so nice, Yasaka-san. Now that's the real relief Issei had been waiting for. He would be shattered if she didn't want to go shopping with him because of that silly misunderstanding. Oh well, best not to think about it anymore. A minute wasted is an extra minute of Kuna's nitpicking. Alright then. What meat should we get? And so they went with their little adventure, browsing the arrays of meat in the display, surrounded by blocks of ice to keep them fresh. After a little bit of discussing, they ended up with beef. Yasaka mentioned making a beef gyoza and Issei could hardly wait anymore. In the middle of weighing the glorious and tender meat, Issei heard a familiar voice coming from a display stall to his left. And what he saw was something he would plainly describe as unbelievable. Huh? What's the difference anyway? They all look the same to me, complained the bald-headed boy, apparently directed to the girl next to him. Sheesh, of course you won't understand. And the girl replied with the same tone. Her brown hair was tied into short twin-tails by a red ribbon. The same red ribbon Issei had deemed as the equivalent of the Red Plain to the Red Baron. You're missing the point, exclaimed the other boy, whose square-rimmed glasses were equally notorious for his measurement skill. What matters is the taste. The taste, TSK boys. The argument was topped by the girl whose pink hair reminded him of the cherry blossom. And wooden swords. And the pain they brought. Before heading to meet his high school friends, Issei told what he was about to do to Yasaka. He should at least tell her he wouldn't be long, because it wasn't long before his bald-headed buddy noticed him coming at their direction. Huh! What the, I see. And the rest put their bickering to a halt to yell his name in unison. Issei, why are you so shocked about? Issei flatly said, lowering his muffler to his neck, revealing his graceful face that was average at best. Maybe slightly above average. Didn't I tell you that I live here? In the supermarket? Issei stared blankly at Keitase. What shocked him more was that she was being genuine. No, I mean the city. You do? For an unapparent reason, Murayama then pinched Matsuda's cheek. Why didn't you tell me, you dummy? Ow. I forgot, okay? He told me last week. We had it planned since last week, you idiot. Oh. Matsuda deadpanned until Murayama increased the intensity of her pinch. Jaya, you're tearing me apart, Lisa. Why are you speaking in English? And who is this Lisa, huh? It's a joke. Oh God, show some mercy. Issei looked calm on the surface. But all he thought was that his friend was an ass. Meanwhile, Motohama casually strutted towards him. Honestly, man, this is the last place I thought you would be. Isn't there a convenience store that sells instant noodles? Hey, my diet isn't just noodles, but mainly consists of that. True. Issei monotoned. But that was before anyway. And look, before anything, what are you guys doing together? Actually, why and how are you guys together? Motohama and Keitase exchanged a glance with each other, and while it was refreshing that it wasn't a glance that was filled with ire or lecherous eyes, it still ticked Issei off in its own way. Well, you know, me and Matsu took the same university, right? Issei could guess where this was going. And they did too. Keitase dully nodded. We got reduced tuition fee and other benefits enrolling there, since you know, the owner is the same person that owns our school. Huh. I didn't know that. The same group? What was it again? Gremory Group. Motohama continued, yeah, well, we have food tech as our major, and after a pop quiz, this forehead here, GH-. It should be noted that an elbow in the gut is painful. I mean, Keitase asked me to help her with her study. It's just for a little, alright? It's not that I can't do it on my own or anything. She got a big fat F in the quiz beforehand. Issei's nonchalant wall broke down as he snorted a laugh. That's not necessary, you glass dummy. Hey, look who's talking. Ugh, you wipe that smirk off your face. Yelled an agitated Keitase, who then, as she fathomed there was no way she's winning this alone, resorted to her most reliable backup. Murayama, I'm being bullied. Seeing her brunette friend / soulmate stomping her way along with Matsuda, who had his hand rubbing his red cheek, Issei unconsciously sent his prayers to whoever was up there. He was grateful there were no wooden swords lying around nearby. Although that bamboo tree over there seemed equally dangerous, but he assured himself they wouldn't go that far, hopefully. What's wrong, Keitase? Did these idiots make fun of you? She said so caringly as she held her friend, and then sent daggers of a glare at Issei and Motohama in quick succession. A flashback then ensued. A horrible one that sent shivers down their spine. Survival was humans' natural instinct, and without further ado, Issei pointed at Motohama. He did it, and Motohama did the same. He laughed. I laughed because he said it. He's Issei. Wait, what's that supposed to mean? Guys, please, there's no reason to fight. Zip it, Baldy. Motohama and Issei spat in unison. They ceased their hostility as they bumped fists. Matsuda regretted attempting being the mediator. Pricks. Pocketing his hands in his cargo pants, Issei nudged at the notorious Baldy. So what about you two, huh? I thought you were in a football academy, Matsuda? Uh-huh, and she's the manager. Somehow. He thought he was sly, saying that word under his breath. But Murayama's not-so-subtle glare spoke otherwise. Ahem. Also, guess who's the captain now? Returning to his nonchalant face, Issei simply said, the Somalian? No. Captain Phillips? No. Well, I'm not, just not yet, but I will. One day. Probably. There you go again, you're good at it, okay? Issei felt a tinge of jealousy and disbelief as Murayama poked Matsuda's cheek. It was all he needed to regain his confidence. Damn good, great. You're all lovebirds now. A moment of silence passed. They all giggled and blushed all together, looking away from one another. Damned normies, why don't you get embarrassed on my face? Damn it, you're all twice the annoying now. It's annoyance. Ah, whatever. Issei grumped. So what's up with you guys? Having a party? Not really. Motohama rubbed his neck. But I guess? Can we call it a party? He received a shrug from Keitase. Thanks. You're very helpful. He received a flick on his arm. It didn't hurt as much as being elbowed, but it still stung. You celebrating something? It hit him. Damn, is it for Christmas Eve? And based on their reaction, he was spot on. Ha, I'm right, aren't I? Look at how much you've grown, damn right. And who are you, my dad? Matsuda laughed. We're gonna have a small one. Don't miss us, okay, dude? PSH. Who will? Issei didn't feel sad or disappointed, or any of those woeful feelings. If anything, he's glad to meet these two heads again. To the girls, as chipper as the boys might be, they couldn't help but feel a bit awful. Issei is someone the boys are close with, after all. You can always come, you know, Issei? Yeah. We would have invited you if he told me earlier. Nah, it's all good. Issei laughed gaily. A younger him might be pissed off and downright jealous, but he liked to think he's a better man now. Besides, he's not going to spend it all by himself. You all go have your fun. Though, I'm surprised you're spending it together. Huh? What do you mean? Well, they said once they have a girlfriend, they will spend the entire Christmas doing MMF. Nothing. We'd spend it doing nothing and relax, but their effort was too late. Two pairs of eyes filled with suspicion, and the same look that dragged them all the way back to that botched peeping operation were already glaring at them. Puh. As the girls were plotting something, Issei decided he had bothered them enough. The girls will do them justice. I'll leave you guys alone then. See you all when I see you. But just as he turned around and took a step, he pulled into a complete stop as Yasaka was already standing there with the trolley. Ah, Yasaka-san. I'm sorry, did I take too long? No, it's fine, Isidano. She smiled. The kind man had just weighed the meat. Are these your friends, HM? Yeah, I guess they are. Issei joked. Upon seeing the expressions of his friends, which could be simply labeled as either beyond shocked or completely beguiled by the appearance of the golden-haired young woman, Issei couldn't help but sneer. A glorious victory. One he deserved. Says who? Says he. Hello. I am Murayama, Issei's former classmate. Pleased to meet you, I'm Keitase. She yelped as she bowed stiffly, cheeks flushing pink. And nice to meet you, Era, the pleasure is mine. Yasaka said in her usual soft tune, exchanging her sweet smile. I'm Yasaka. I hope we can get along well. Me too, Didito. And the guys are Matsuda and Motohama. Issei followed, since his peeping partners seemed to have stopped responding. Motohama's the one with glasses and Matsuda's the one without glasses or hair. Hello, nice to meet you, Motohama-dano, Matsuda-dano. Oh! I mean Motohama-san and Matsuda-san. I apologize, old habits are a bit tough to break. They stiffly nodded, replying very quietly that it came out as an inaudible whimper of aha. Their girlfriends had to shut their gaping mouth for them. Anything else to buy, Yasaka-san? As usual, Yasaka's hum filled the air before she spoke her mind. I think that's all I see, Dano and Issei-san. Oh, okay then. We should head back then. See you all later. It's nice meeting you. Please excuse us. And Yasaka bid her farewell with a polite bow, and casually, Issei commandeered the shopping trolley, earning himself a smile and a thanks from the lady. He might not have a girlfriend or a date on Christmas Eve, but he's living with a woman whose cooking filled his stomach and heart, a cheery daughter that kept the grays away, and a new cute timid friend. That's a decisive win in his book. Am I dreaming right now? Matsuda was the first to break away from the charm. Did that lady just… How did he? If it is it a nightmare or a good dream? I don't need your philosophical questions, Motohama, griped the baldy. And he then lowered his voice into a hush. Hey, did you get her sizes? Are you kidding me? Of course I did, yet they weren't as quiet as they hoped to be. Such was the case for nearly every time they thought they were. Sheesh, will you boys stop leering at that lady? We're standing right beside you, you know? And what followed was the pace walking after the kendo girls, begging for forgiveness as Issei and Yasaka watched from a checkout counter. Wow. He thought out loud, that's a weird sight. Usually it's the girls that are chasing after us. Us? Why were they chasing you, Isidano? It's we were stupid. Yasaka tilted her chin. Stupid? Issei did a spit take. We did stupid things. Some things are better left unsaid. Her soft, pleasant giggle droned within his head, putting him at ease. You must be good friends with them. Yeah. Vacantly placing Kuna's snack on the counter, as he watched those four making up, he chuckled to himself. They're the best. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the DanzyDanz for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. If you like to hear adult version of this and other stories, I'll give you link of my Patreon. See you in the next video. Goodbye.